All right, there we go. We are live. All right, all of you freedom-loving boys and girls, wherever you are, whomever you are on this big blue marble of the planet we call Earth, welcome to one of the centerline systems. You know, this isn't our loadout. It's not a loadout live. This is the first Monday of the month, and this is when we do our Millstone. And down below, you can see Sasquatch down there. He's one of the partners over on Millstone. He'll be joining us tonight. And then over on my right, your left, we've got Czar Baroda joining us tonight too. So thanks for everybody. I'll get over to the chat here in a second and give everybody a shout out. But I just got a little bit of, again, the one guy, it's going to just stay with me forever. It's housekeeping, but you know, the guy said fluff. And now I just like, it just makes me laugh. Like, I guess I'm doing the fluff. So here's the fluff. And, you know, it's not easy being green, boys and girls. So, you know, as you can imagine, I think actually somebody said it to me in an email once, you know, reaching out to me like, Mark, I can assume you're as something like with a cat with its tail getting run over. I don't even know, some Southern expression, but it was pretty good. But just like you guys, I mean, you know, everybody's busy. So I'm really striving hard to get better at the videos, and I've got to start shooting more videos through the course of the week. I've actually had one of you great men, you great folks, help me out doing some videos. So I've got some stuff, content to release. Well, so I'll just say it. I mean, that's Gimli. Gimli's been helping out. I mean, he's the master of the clown car. Learn Me Something's been really helping out. So, you know, we're getting more stuff going. I'll have more videos coming out for you, and this is where I'm going with it. So I just got our mini E's. This is just kind of the prop version. This is going to be mine. But the mini E's are back from Alex Messenger Photography. So the product is out there on the website, but today's Monday, Millstone Monday. Duh. Today's Monday. I mean, seriously, right? Today's Monday. I'll have these up by the middle of the week. And then the other thing, and so I'll do a standalone video. So once these are up, I'll do a standalone video. But as always, I have a small number of these that come back from the photographer. So we'll do a little contest. I'll give one away. And then if anybody wants some of the photo shoot ones. So again, brand new, but you know, we've touched it and put gear in it. So, but we've got
loved.
What's that?
It's been loved.
Well, not, you know, it's lovable, but you know, it's only been loved basically for the photo. So, I mean, you know, if that's the kind of love you're into, there's Sasquatch. You know. And then last but not least, it is 2025, Zarbarodi, you got it. And then last but not least, so I also had, finally, we got some of our everyday organizers because they are designed slightly different from the old pictures on the website. I mean, the concept is still there. We just, well, here talking ain't doing, as always. The difference here is, and you might not be able to see it, you know, black for the red thread, but right up through here and all the way around the outside of the clear vinyl, that's now binding tape. And it wasn't like that before. We were just kind of folding the material over. It's a certain type of sewing technique, getting that into that allowance. But we like the binding tape concept a little bit better. I think it's cleaner. And well, honestly, and for us, it sews better, right? So and that means that cuts down on the labor a little bit, right? Or maybe not the labor, but definitely the swear words. It cuts down on those for a little bit. So I'll do a standalone video. Again, I only have a handful of the mini E's. My goal is to have them on the website no later than Wednesday. I'll do a standalone video. We'll do a contest, a giveaway, or something like that. And then and I'll do another one from the everyday organizer, just showing you guys what I have from the photographer. And one of you, if you're watching, I've already reached out to you because we have one customer who has an Edo on the work order we're doing, or the next work order we're doing. And I gave him the option like, hey, I have something very similar. It's from the photographer, save you a little bit of money. Guy was like, hell yeah, I'll do that. So, you know, and I think with times are tough, you know, even saving Blake Zarbarota, before I even introduce you guys, and I'm kind of rabbit holing myself. Seriously, isn't even saving $10 a big deal nowadays when eggs are $9 a dozen?
Yeah. Well, and just on top of that, what I noticed at the supermarket yesterday was the free range organic eggs were actually cheaper than the crappy eggs. So make that make sense.
Yep,
you know,
exactly.
So in the end of the day, just buy some chickens, people. Like,
if people don't know this or haven't figured out, as we get to the introductions here in a second, Blake is fast approaching the market value of Elon Musk because Blake has chickens. So Blake's checking.
Seriously, man. I'm standing on the street corner with the trench coat selling single eggs for like way more money than you'd expect right now.
Instead of running booze, you're running eggs, right?
Damn straight, dude. I've got 3 different hot rods running around the Tri-County area selling eggs right now.
All right. Hey, okay. I'm just also going to warn everybody. So we don't always get to do a pregame, but I love all of our guests. I love all of you guys, but Blake's busy. Zarbarota's busy. We did a little bit.
Week, man.
I had this actually set up with 30 minutes to spare. That almost never happens. So we did a little pregame. And as you can imagine, the conversation just went so all over the place. I'm like, yeah, so it's going to be a shit show tonight, isn't it? And I'm like, no, it's going to be perfect. Let's have some fun with it. All right. My last little bit of housekeeping. And for everybody watching, to include our guests, and we'll do a brief introduction, but for everybody watching, whether it's on demand, I mean, don't do this if you're driving or whatever the case is, but on a personal note, I just got to give a shout out to the late, great Gene Hackman. I don't think there's a movie that, matter of fact, if there's a movie and it could be a subject I don't care about and Gene Hackman was in it, I just liked it. I mean, I just watched it, right? And I hate to say it, Mark Wahlberg is kind of like that for me too. I don't know what it is. I like their movies, even if their movies suck. And Gene Hackman just passed, him and his wife. And we don't know all the details of it yet, so I'm not even going to speculate. I pray, and I'm not saying this Lord's name in vain. I just pray he's not on like an Epstein list or something. So, but I'm going to just like ask everybody to raise their glass, whatever they got, to the late, great Gene Hackman, an incredible movie star, just an icon. And if you're a child of the 80s, you definitely know who he is. So here's to you and your wife, sir. May you rest in peace. God bless you. All right. I just had to get that out there because, seriously, I love Gene Hackman movies and I'm, child of, pop culture. All right, boys, I'm going to do I got a couple woos here and some check-ins. Let me just give a quick shout out. Everybody knows who you guys are, but let's still just go across the board, right?
It's a community, man.
Yeah. We got Gene. Woo! We got Snowshoe checking in from Michigan. And then Learn Me Something tuning in from the Rotten Apple. I like how Learn Me Something's coming out with a different descriptor for New York every time. I like it. Now it's just the Rotten Apple. Glad to see Redbeard's doing better. Well, speak for yourself. That's all I got to say. Just speak. And then Gene. Okay, so yeah, here's how behind we are. Gene's saying he loves his mini E. Yeah, that was like 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. But thank you, Gene. I'm glad you like it. And then Henner Ben, Minnesota. We got some Minnesotans rocking the house. Nice. All right, boys and girls, I'm going to introduce our guests. Again, you've probably seen them a million times. We do a lot of these episodes with each other. Love these guys. Tonight's episode for the Millstone Monday. And this kind of, I guess, is housekeeping too. I'm changing up how I do the loadout lives. We can't just do the first Monday of the month for Millstone. Blake and I still want to move forward with that. There's a lot of subjects and details that just require a little bit of time. Maybe those future episodes won't be as convoluted at the beginning like this one's already starting out to be. But we're going to continue the F kits for an episode or two more. I just got to work out schedules with these guys, and when we can do it, we'll all come in and that'll be a loadout live, but it'll just be because these F kits, boys. I mean, so when Redbeard, Zarbarota, and I were talking about this, on a Saturday night for like 3 hours laughing our asses off. I mean, we didn't really even realize, how funny F kit sounded. I mean, Jeremy, does it not make a little bit more like, hang on, is that really what we named it? But
no,
but it makes sense. Like F it. These are things that you don't want to be F-A-F-O-ing about, right? There's no F'ing around here, right?
Yeah.
And fun and interestingly, there's so many words that start with F that work. So in the pregame, I was talking to these guys and we're like, well, okay, should we do this? Should we do that? And I have a front sight post tool for handguns, and I'll show that when we get into the meat of it. But my comment was like, somebody I knew had this thing for like almost a year and just like would never give it back, just hopes that you forget. So my thing for F kids was, well, friends. I obviously knew friends. I mean, I love these guys. I got great friends there, but I might have to use my facilities a little better and pick and choose my friends, because, when you got friends who take your rake, your lawnmower, your wheelbarrow, your front sight post and then never replace it, man, you gotta cut sling load there and get the hell those guys out of your life, man. All right. On that note, that's my intro. We're going to talk about F kits, continue on, but tonight for the algorithm, we're just going to call them Pew Pew, even though the real word starts with an F. You guys get what we're talking about, but we're going to do Pew Pew kits. Actually, I want to kind of see if no vulgarity and so boys, think about this. Choose your words wisely. I really do want to see if we can break through the algorithm a little bit, because some people have been saying, well, the reason you're shadow banned is because you guys drop F bombs every now and then. Like, that can't be it. Come on, man.
But it is. Just imagine you're around my little one, Mark. You're just hanging out. We're having a barbecue, and my little guy's just hanging out too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I actually don't mind putting money in his swear jar for his college fund. I don't,
I do. I'd rather that swear jar be empty, man. I'm working on it myself.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, hang on, man. You probably have like already a couple $100 in the swear jar.
No, it's more than that. I hate to even admit it. So I have this like 5-gallon, no kidding, mason jar. Like, it's all glass. It's awesome. It was a centennial edition. Has like 100 years on it. I'm pretty sure it's a 100-year anniversary for the U.S. Anyway, and I'm just pulling that out of my ass. Like I said, it's been a long week already. But anyway,
language.
Oh, yeah. I'm talking about money too. It's got 4 inches. It's got 4 inches of coins in the bottom of it already. Like, it's a lot of money. Like, this kid, I'd like to see him go into a trade school, but he could go to Harvard already on this route. So,
all right. So here, we're already kind of going into it. I hope you guys at home watching this on demand or watching it live with us, you're having fun. We're starting off the week. It's, whatever, so anyway, yeah. Are you saying hi to somebody?
No, I said it's Friday. It feels like it's already Friday. It feels like it should be the end of the week, man. This is already a long one.
I thought maybe you moved to the end of the street in your car. Well, here, listen to the introductions, and then you can explain while you're in the car. So let's just come down to Blake. Everybody's seen his new name is Sasquatch. That's another story. Jeremy and I were talking before we called Blake. And then anyway, and the Blake's like, yeah, I've been called that before. So, all right, Mr. Squatch, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So my name's Blake, live in northern Minnesota. I'm a gunsmith by trade. Got a little hobby farm, young family, just kind of trying to live the American dream in a shattered world, I guess, if you will. Excuse me. As far as why I'm in my car this evening is my lovely wife actually has the night off. She's not working her night shift, and she's watching the baby while she's got a friend over. So I didn't want to have to tear down the baby stuff and have grandma watch them. So I'm in the car looking like I'm committing a felony while having a beer, but I'm actually just out in front of my house right now. So don't worry, I'm not driving anywhere. We're going to be safe tonight. This is a very conscientious evening.
All right. Well, thank you very much, sir. And hats off to your lovely wife for, still
she's a saint, man. She's a friggin' saint.
But also she just might be like, just go outside. And here's the thing. I forgot in my, I'm sorry, Blake's outside. You might be like, oh my God, why would you be outside? It's northern Minnesota. So we in the pregame, and I guess also in the housekeeping, we wanted to wish everybody who's either watching or participating in the John Bear Grease race right now. Yep. It was delayed this year. The start point got moved farther north. And I guess to that point, so don't worry about Blake because it's like 50 freaking degrees where we are right now. It's unbelievable.
It's warm. Yeah, it's real warm. I actually feel real bad for the dogs. Me and Mark were talking about this earlier. Yeah. This is like early fall training weather for them, where they're going to be pulling a cart with wheels, not an actual sled over icy snow. Like, those dogs are going to really have to work on this bear grease.
Oh yeah.
Well, and they only moved the start point. Like, I don't know what that is course wise, but if you take the freeway, it's not even 30 miles north. Gosh. And again, and so here, before we bring it over to Redbeard, but just on that note, so good luck to everybody racing and mushing up on the bear grease. Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's going to be warm weather. I only got out of the house/shop once today, and that was later in the day. I was just like, oh, I got to go do this. And we got the live stream tonight. I walked outside and I immediately came back in and just like, took that jacket off and put like, I could have easily been wearing, I'm not joking, boys and girls. I could have easily worn shorts and this heavyweight hoodie and I would have been fine. It's like 50 degrees here today.
Last week I switched over to my spring shorts already. Like I got my lightweight pants, lightweight shorts out. It is spring in Minnesota. I don't care if we get another 3 foot of snow. I'm wearing shorts from here on out, man.
Well, and on that note, we'll bring it over to Czar Barota because even though his name implies otherwise, he is also a resident of Minnesota. But Blake's kind of right. Look, it's March and April. March is we have a great high potential, high probability of getting a lot of snow here still this month. So we're not anywhere out of it yet, but it's just like,
mentally we are. Mentally, I'm over winter. I don't care if it's still like absolutely the dredges out. I'm wearing shorts and flip flops.
All right, hey, we're at 15 minutes. Are we going to talk about F kits or are we going to talk about sled dive? Let's bring it over to Starbird. Hey, tell us a little bit about yourself and let's get this actual show going. Or what did she say? Let's get this party going or whatever it is.
So I'm Czar Barota or Redbeard or whichever handle that we want to use. I am a resident gun guy myself. Like I always say, I sometimes feel like a gun guy by proxy because I really appreciate Blake's expertise and he's more seasoned than I am. So, but I bring what I know in conjunction with what Blake has, and I think me and him have a pretty good medley of information. I also am the resident liberty and constitutional guy. Really big into that, and I got a few other things cooking down the pike that one of these days I will get more into. Unless
even though we don't know what the content is, thank you. That should have been part of my housekeeping, but it's such a new. If you're over on the chat, Redbeard made an announcement. Yeah, that was yesterday, wasn't it?
Yes, yesterday. I think so.
Yeah, so over on the chat, and we have 2 chats now. We have the gear chat, and then if you want to do a little bit more adult table, political, we have the CLS After Dark chat now too. But Redbeard made a comment the other day, and Redbeard, if you want to come back to that and just let everybody know what you've got planned, because you just said it.
So basically, I am kind of branching out and doing my own thing. It's going to be very liberty-centric.
There's no kind of you are going to do
it's going to be a very liberty-centric perspective on various issues. It's not just domestic issues, but foreign issues and a litany of other things. It's something I've kind of been cooking up for a while and wasn't sure how to go about it, but now I have a direction that I'm willing to go that I think is going to work out good. And for all intents and purposes, if you're not in any of those chats, we're waiting on you. Please come on over. It's a good time. There's a lot of really good people, but also the podcast is going to be the Sentinels of Liberty. I thought it sounded good, and sometimes that's all it takes, But and Mark, you probably know this. I'll just put this out there. If people really understood how long it took to actually come up with a name that not only sounded relatively good, but you're sitting there and Googling and you're like, is this taken? Is it not taken? If it is taken, can I change my color scheme so it's not the same thing? It's such a pain, and Mark knows this. So,
but I like it.
And Blake does too. I mean, it's a labor of love. So I will be dropping a lot more information on that here in the next week or two. My first episode is gonna be on the 15th of this month at 1700 Central Standard Time. So
cool. I'm excited.
What's the date? That's the 17th, right?
The 15th.
Oh, the 15th. Okay, yep. Sorry. I'm just gonna put it up there as a little comment.
Yeah.
And you said 17 Central.
Yep.
And Redbeard, is that going to be mostly a kind of a monologue sort of thing that you're going to be doing, or is it an open forum, or what's your idea behind it?
Yeah, so basically what we're going to do is it's going to be kind of a mixture of it'll be open monologue, but we're also going to bring in some of the news and the current events and issues of the day, both domestically or foreign. There is going to be some kind of a format, so we are going to have some regiment to it, but it's still going to allow enough room to be able to provide some nuance to these discussions and really kind of get down to the nitty gritty of the issue of liberty as it pertains to all of these different subjects. So,
that's exciting.
Yeah,
hey, Blake,
yep, I'm really looking forward to it.
Just real quickly, sorry if you don't mind, Blake, because it's getting dark. If you can move the camera to your right-hand side, well, okay, that wasn't bad. No, we need more light. That's even worse. No, so I was trying to get the camera so your driver's side window is behind you so we can see you just a little bit better.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's kind of looking Sasquatchy, kind of looking sexy.
You know, I actually like what Gene said in the chat. I feel a little more confident about myself with his comment.
Okay, so here we go. And then we're going to jump into it because, you know, we're having a good time. And like, that's all important information. And let's all wish Jeremy the best of luck. Once I know more, I'll definitely be posting that information over on both of the chats. I'll definitely make mention in a couple different videos. We will definitely watch it. Are you going to hang on? That's what you didn't say. Is this going to be live or on demand, Redbeard?
It's going to be a mixture of both. So there's going to be a mixture of both. There is going to be some content that I would like to do on demand, but then there's going to be opportunities for live content as well. So
okay, well, we're going to support Redbeard as best we can. Or maybe I'll watch the first episode and make sure it's not just some, you know, crazy some representation of Washington D.C. and Congress. All right, here we go. Here's what we had. Here's where we left off, and let's get into kids. This is probably going to go. We're trying to keep this at an hour, and I'm also letting you know, boys and girls, I'm trying to change how I do the after darks because I want to keep those at 2 hours. So just bear with me. Give me constructive criticism. I really mean it. But like I did forewarn you this was going to be a shit show tonight because I don't know. Me and the boys are already in a mood.
That's word, Mark. It's a poo show. Right. It's a poo show.
Oh, sorry.
We're going PG.
Algorithm. Okay. It's a poo show. And then Gene says that Blake, you look more like Grizzly Adams or Mad Jack. I like either one of those as nicknames. Everybody else chime in. Should we give Blake the nickname Sasquatch, Grizzly Adams, or Mad Jack? I think those are all pretty good. Then we've got the accessorizer, Gimli, reporting for duty from Ohio. We actually already mentioned you at the very beginning of the video. You must not have been here for that because you would have said something. And then we've got Gene. F kits for sled dogging. Those are called S kits, support team. Like they have support teams in the whole 9 yards. But I guarantee they have F kits on, you know, something equivalent in the sled with them because I'm serious. You might be looking at 10, 15. I don't know what the checkpoint distances are anymore, but it's not like there's a checkpoint every mile. You're way the F out in the woods. I mean, like the real boonies. So yeah, I guarantee those guys have
a lot of petroleum jelly and quick clot are going to be your two best friends for your dogs.
And then John has a comment for Redbeard. He says, I smell something from that beautiful beard of yours. Sniff, sniff. I smell freedom. I like that. That's a great comment right
Love
there.
it.
Yeah, thanks, John. That's good. Oh, and then there's your podcast. That was me. And then I got two from John here real quickly. Okay, so back to you. And then let's get into the meat and potatoes here, boys. But John wants to know, Redbeard, can he subscribe to your channel now? That's a great question. Thank you, John, for asking that.
Yeah, so the channel is up. It should be open to subscribers as far as I know. Everything is set up and
hang on. Are you just on what channels are you on? ScrewTube, Rumble? What are you on?
Right now I'm launching on YouTube. That's going to be my primary. And as I move forward, I'm going to look at going on to Twitter, which I think is going to be a good one. And then I'll take a look at Rumble. We'll see what Rumble has to provide. So,
well, I'm trying to find you on ScrewTube right now, and I'm here to tell you it's a lot of Captain America shit.
Yeah, I will. I'll drop a link. I'll drop a link.
Hey, put a link in the comments, and then we'll put that up so people can see it.
Yep.
Okay, and then okay, so now here's the last comments, and let's get into the heart of the issue here, guys. Hey, boys and girls, you've been here before. You know that it's a roll of the dice. Like this can happen. We're 25 minutes into it. We haven't even talked about firearms yet, so it's been a day, right? But
John, pews, Mark. We're pews algorithm.
Pews. Sorry, God, gee, that doesn't even make sense to me. I don't want to do it. It's just so wrong. Look, So John wants to know if you can skin a grizzly, Blake.
I have not skinned a grizz, but I have skinned a couple black bear. But yeah, you give me a knife, I can get to it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, yeah. I mean, it's the technique is the technique. I mean, maybe there's matter of fact, let's come into that like a little bit later if we have time. How delicate do you have to be around the genitalia on some animals versus others? Like deer. Deer. Go ahead. What was that, Blake?
Oh, I was gonna say, stay clear of the bladder, man.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was just gonna say. Like, deer, you definitely want to. How I take care of grouse and rabbits. That's really not much of an issue. But So that's a good point.
All depends on what you're doing.
Yep. And then here we go. Quest Fuse is here in the house. Blackbeard. Whoop whoop. The Omega Kit Part 2, The Reckoning. I'm not even sure what the hell that means. Thanks, though. All the same, Blackbeard for.
Oh.
Then Gene saying Grizzly Adams as him and Grizzly are great with animals, people, and loved by all. Yeah, so maybe Grizzly Adams because Blake is loved by. Well, he's not loved by all people.
Oh, I got some people that really don't like me.
yeah, but animals kind of do. And then little Jeremiah Johnson. I might have to watch that movie tonight. That's a great movie. And then, just saying that's a pop culture joke for us all. Thanks, John. I really appreciate it. All right, boys, girls, we're going to jump into it. We're going to talk about kits. We're going to talk about pew pews. So before I do, I'm serious. I'm going to turn it over to the boys here because I really don't have a lot to say in this category. And I'm going to preface that right now. So I've used weapons my whole life, right? When I was a kid, I think I was 12 years old walking, 2 miles, maybe not quite 3 miles through the woods from my parents' house to my grandparents' house. I shot a goose once out of season. I didn't know. Brought it down to my grandma. I was all proud. I either had a 410 or a 22 with me since I've been a kid, right? And then the military, then the agency. But if you want to sit and talk to me about ballistic, and coefficients and stuff, man, it's a tool, and I'm not geeked out. And I'm not saying that's bad. But these guys are going to handle that kind of stuff way better than I am, right? So I'm just going to show you some things, and I'm going to start the conversation off. So for me, a Pew Pew kit, there's at least 3 different versions of this. And just like we've said in so many other episodes, there's no one cookie cutter for anything, right? Because it's a tool in the toolbox. What if your Pew Pew was this, or is your Pew Pew this, right? Or is your Pew Pew this? They're all different tools. They're going to require different, different mechanisms, different elements, how you're going to fix them, repair them, maintain them, utilize them, X, Y, and Z. So I'm just going to start this off by probably pointing out some pretty obvious issues, and then I'll turn it over to those guys. And seriously, what I really like about where the live is going, the chats, add your own comments, right? Because there's so many products and so much stuff out there. Share that with everybody, and heck, do it. Learn Me Something says, go back to the video afterwards and post it as a comment so people can see it in the comments section as well. So I'm just going to give you some really quick general purpose, big picture comments, and then I'm going to let the boys take it. So part of a kit, it isn't just the literal definition of kit. What is a kit? If I have a handgun and I carry a handgun, a pew pew, a hand pew pew, well, that's too late. We already broke the algorithm, or where I screwed that up. Or I screwed it up.
Keep it going though. You'd be amazed at how it actually works.
Okay, well, we'll see. But so if I have that, well, part of my kit, right? Because a kit is a mindset. It's all the, the accompanying, in my opinion, it's all the tools and the elements that go along with it. Well, so for me, this is part of a kit, right? This is clearly, screw you, screw tube. This is not real in any form or fashion. It's a training aid. but you need a training aid in your kit so you can actually practice all these different techniques, get it so you can have situational awareness. You're looking at everything and still do what you need to do and get back into the fight to save yourself, your family, your community. So that's one thing in your kit right now. That's a slightly different version of what you may have thought of kits. We'll get into the more nitty gritty, but that's part of your kit. You have to have that in your tool bag, and you have to practice and rehearse with it. And then on that same note, if you've got bad, storage containers, don't throw them away. Spray paint them, make sure everybody knows it's a training thing, and then use that. So that other thing is a great beginning, but then use these guys with your real system with fake Pew Pews, right? And there's all kinds of different fake Pew Pews out there, and there's all kinds of drills you can run, well, okay, I don't want to spend too much time. We're not talking about that. Here's another stupid one. So for me, almost every Pew Pew kit, because if I'm carrying a Pew Pew, then I should have a medical kit. Now, these are just some medical gloves rolled up, right? I can shove them in a pocket. I can shove them in a pouch. Now, here's what I've probably used for almost 10 years now. These gloves are probably 10 years old. They've got like a rubberized material on the inside. And I'm just going to tell you, it's like, dude, you're out hunting. You don't want all of those smells on your person. So use a glove, use something so you're not carrying that with you. And where I wanted to go with this is simply they're not all the same. Look at these. So I'm going to show you a different kit here in a second. These gloves were in the bottom of my kit, this big Plano box. They're just backup gloves. They got that rubberized material. Dude, I don't know what happened. There's stiff as a board. So these things are not as good as the ones I've been using for like 10 years. I'm going to throw them away. I just kept them out here just for the video. Dude, these were way more expensive than those cheap things I got from like Walmart or wherever the hell it was. But those things have been working great. So medical gloves or another pair of gloves just to keep your hands, especially if you're hunting, right? Because your Pew Pew might be more about food procurement than it is personal defense and home defense. If it is home defense, just real quickly, go ahead.
No, I was going to go on a bit of a thing because I was going to say it's irrelevant for what type of firearm you're talking about. And I was going to go into my thing. So please finish your thing and then I'll jump in.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to abbreviate it now then. So, because we've been talking for a while. I want to get it back over to you guys. I'm just trying to point out some large ticket items. A flashlight. Well, you're going to need a flashlight, if you're doing this from a personal defense perspective. But if you're just doing maintenance on your weapon, on your Pew Pew platform, right? You might still want a light. You might want to be shining it down a muzzle. There's all kinds of different ways where a light is going to be a beneficial thing to have. And I know this is all somebody right now is saying like, oh my God, I actually came over to this podcast. I know all that stuff. You'd be surprised at how many people don't think about that though. You then, sir or ma'am, are doing good. Keep it up. But a lot of people don't think about it. Same thing. So again, even if this was on your person, because just think about the interoperability. If I'm carrying certain items on my person, why wouldn't I have this flashlight on my person? If I'm carrying this on my person for personal defense, well, then I definitely want one of these, right? Because that's also personal defense and it's maintenance and all that. And then I'm definitely going to want one of these kind of things, right? And this is a tool, a multi-tool that gives me all kinds of different options to fix a deficiency, helping me with my cleaning. There's so many things that can be done. And these are I'm starting from small, kind of going big, right? And these are things that you should probably carry on your person, or at least if not on your person, in that next level kit, right? Person kit, in your rucksack, type of kit, or on your belt line, in your vehicle kit, and then your at-home kit. You probably aren't carrying this around with you every day, but like hex tools, right? Maybe you only carry 2 of them because that's all that matters to you for a front sight post or some other thing of that one specific device you're carrying. But in your kits, I have multiple. Like over my left shoulder is my kind of like my main maintenance kit. I probably have like 3 or 4 different versions of hex tools just that I can draw from to use what I want. And then the last thing, so at home, the range, especially at the range. So I used to teach, certified, did instruction, all that kind of stuff. And this is why I bought this guy, where it's because of that I bought this guy. But then I just realized, like, Dad, this is a tool. They're not super expensive, but if you can get it, you need to get one. And that's a front sight post tool. This is part of it for handguns. It's helping you adjust front sight posts. I'm here to tell you, I can't tell you how many times I've used this thing. Somebody's front sight was just all jacked up. They're not doing, I'm a big believer in point shooting. That's reflexive type of shooting. I'm not a front sight post, because that's just been shown time and time again. That's not what most people do under duress, in a combat situation. Train yourself just to look at something. Your head and your body, your hands go to where your eyes go. Look at something, just look at it, and then just move your thumb over. Oh, there it is. There it is. And it may not be 100% perfect, but it's going to be A-box quality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stop right there. I've got a whole bunch of other kits for more of the in your ruck type of kits, but let me turn it over to you guys, because Blake, you're getting dark, Sasquatch.
I was just thinking, I feel like the message I'm about to deliver is completely inappropriate for this setting. I actually feel like we should be talking about the events of the world with this lighting, not just
you're looking kind of Nostradamus
right,
from on high.
Next time, Gadget. Next time.
Do you have an interior light or something you can do?
It's on, and I got my lights on. I'm as best as I can be right now.
Right there. Yeah. All right. What about your phone light?
And then I'll be shining my eyes. This is about as good as I can get. I played around with it. Anyway, my point to the whole F-kit concept of any kind of projectile weaponry is really the maintenance is going to be the same. And that's really where I want to dial in, because that's my bread and butter. That's what I do. There's some basic things that everybody should have access to. They're cheap. One of the biggest ones that's overlooked that I do actually want to bring up is it's a hockey puck. Get yourself a couple hockey pucks. They make fantastic bench blocks, a good dampening device to be able to smack on if you're trying to knock a pin out or something to work on. Put two of them out on a bench, and you've got yourself a pretty good stable platform to work from. So little things like that. A bench block is going to be something that's very useful for you to be able to actually take apart your firearm, get your finger underneath if you're trying to maybe pull down that slide release on a Glock while having it stable on the table. Some of the other stuff that's one of the more common things that I really like to use in maintenance is razor blades. Get yourself a bunch of razor blades. You'd be amazed at how frequently you're going to use these in everyday applications, and they go well beyond just the maintenance of firearms.
Hey, and before you go any further, and I agree. So before you go any further, they also make a very hard, rigid plastic type of razor blade. So so if you're concerned about metal on metal, there's a plastic version right there. Your lighting is perfect. Don't move from
All right, I'll try to hold it here.
Okay.
I'm holding the phone though, so it's gonna be difficult. And this is the most beers I've had in a car since I was a teenager, so you're gonna have to deal with me a little bit. But anyway, so those are two of the things that I use pretty regularly. Disassembly of firearms for most people aren't going to have to be to the extent of where we're taking every spring, detent, and pin out of the firearm. We're talking field strip for most of what you're going to need to do. You got access to an air hose. Honestly, keep it away from your eyes, spray the dirt out. You're going to get most of it out. But one of the biggest things I want to talk about, and I know you've probably, if you've heard me talking this at all about firearms, you've heard me say this, and I'm going to drive it home every single time, and that's lubrication. And when it comes to lubrication, less is more. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Let's come to lubrication. I wasn't sure where you were going to go, and I just want to come back to springs and pins and all that kind of stuff. So, I've got my comment. Do you have a comment on what you would want to share with people? Like if you're going to get down to that level of maintenance. So, if you remember your military or, just think about it, level 1, level 2, level 3 maintenance, brushing dirt off, getting some of the carbon off, or totally disassembling something and really cleaning it. What would you recommend, Blake, that people can do, so they don't lose pins and springs? Throw it in their hat,
Oh,
you
no,
understand
actually, I've
saying?
got the answer to this. Yeah, this is my favorite little trick. I mean, if you're not super comfortable with disassembly of a platform, whatever it is you're disassembling, whether it's a Pew Pew, as it were, or any kind of complex mechanism with multiple parts, throw it in a Ziploc bag while you take it apart. It's clear. You can see through it. If something goes throwing, like, we joke around and call it the gunsmith crawl. Honestly, like in a 40-hour week, I bet I have 2.5 to 3 hours of gunsmith crawl on the books, looking for a part that I've launched across the floor. So if you're not comfortable in disassembly, throw it in a Ziploc bag. I mean, you can even get those really big 2-gallon ones if you want to. You can see through it. You can see what you're doing. You can manipulate the thing that you're working on. And if something does launch, it's going to get captured by that bag. That was actually one of the tricks that a gunsmithing instructor was teaching us when we were first going through complete disassembly on guns that had, or Pew Pews that had been torn apart probably 300 times before we got to them by other students. So everything was sloppy. It kind of chucked around everywhere. But that's really, and beyond the facts, a Ziploc bag, it's good for a plethora of different reasons. So even if you don't need it for disassembly of things, it's a good thing to have in like literally every kit you have, because hey man, if you're really seriously in a pinch, you'd be amazed. You can boil water and make it clean in a Ziploc bag. I don't advise it. You'll get microplastics, but if you need to drink and not get dysentery, like it's useful.
But I know we're making fun, but honestly, a Ziploc bag, at an angle with the corner cut and with the proper type of, rocks, charcoal, from your fire, dude, you could turn that into a water filter. I mean, so that's actually a really good point. Yeah.
And that's kind of like a Ziploc bag to me is akin to Imodium and a razor blade in any kit. Like it doesn't matter if it's a gun cleaning kit. I'm going to probably have a couple of Imodium in it, like we've talked about in a previous podcast. Same with a razor blade. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. Every time, like my everyday carry, I at least have one razor blade on me. And man, I use those things without any kind of guards all the time. And yeah, I pay the price. I get bloody fingers, but like, what man doesn't cut themselves and screw themselves up if they're actually doing things? So a razor blade is really a universal tool that goes well beyond a Pew Pew F kit, if you will. Some of the other stuff, though, going back to lubrication real quick, I got just let me grab it here. I've got it somewhere. So this is just Outers brand. You can get it as dirt cheap lubricant. There we go. It is super thin, nothing special. It's a thin, I believe, mineral spirit oil based. Actually, I don't think it's mineral spirit. I don't remember what it is, but it's a thin lubricant. And whenever we're looking at lubrication, we really want it to be something that doesn't have a lot of additives into it. A lot of added things. There are times where like CLP is useful. But when we're talking about general lubrication, I really do say thinner is better. And that's going to be for your normal operating procedure, or at operating temperatures, I should say. So we're talking between freezing to 80, 85 or something like that. Anything outside of those, what I personally would reference or recommend doing is strip the gun down entirely, degrease it, and move to something that operates in both desert climates and Arctic climates, like a Teflon or something along those lines, a graphite lubricant or something that can work in those sorts of fields. Because really we're at this point in the video, Pew Pew maintenance is not necessarily something that's rocket science, right? It's a very basic thing. What we're talking about is a mechanical system that we're trying to keep running. It doesn't take a lot of tools, but like some of the things you should always carry with you if you do want to do most general maintenance: ball peen hammer, preferably made out of brass, some punches, a hockey puck, some lubrication, a bronze phosphorus brush or some kind of brush to remove detritus, Hoppy's number 9 or some kind of a solvent, and some blue shop towels. And honestly, with that, you can maintain everything from a pistol like a Glock all the way up to, a Mod Deuce. And realistically, well, not fully disassembling a Mod Deuce, but good enough.
I know you could totally do that with what you said.
Yeah.
If you can,
about 3 other specialty tools.
So if you don't mind, like right now, the phone is in your left hand. If you can switch beer and phone, we'll get more light and we can actually see you.
Oh, this feels like we're at an Italian restaurant and I'm taking you out for dinner.
Well,
Okay,
or you're wearing a mask. Right? Yeah.
Oh,
now you're getting.
there we go.
Yeah. Keep that angle. People can look. We all love
Cheers.
to hear the sound of your voice, but like everybody wants.
Sweet
wants to hear
Nothings
that
by
beer
Blake.
So no, but so again, you can make, okay, is it a blue towel? Is it an old t-shirt? Almost all of my rags, whether it's in my personal kits or my range bag kit or my at-home kit, it's almost all rags, right? Well, here's just a stupid rag, that's an old t-shirt, that I'm actually putting a couple different cans of lubricant on because I didn't want them getting on the table, but so kind of to Blake's point, we've got so we've got a spray on, a dryer, and then we have, the traditional CLP break free, and I know that's something that Redbeard really wants to talk about, but I just want to add to it before you do, Redbeard, as Blake just said, like my personal thing is like, if I was, a sergeant again, and I was like, trooping the line, and I was looking at inspecting everybody's weapons kit. If I didn't see like bore brushes or cleaning rods or bore patches or Q-tips and pipe cleaners, and boys and girls, pipe cleaners are kind of getting a little bit difficult to find nowadays, but items like that are great items to have in your kit. But again, depending on what level of maintenance you're trying to do, maybe you don't need that because you're really not disassembling the bolt or the bolt assembly group. You're not doing that into that level of care. You're just taking the bolt out. And if you had the chance, just throw that in some lubricant, what you said, hops, right? Just, throw that in hops, just let that kind of dissolve and wear its way out. And then, rinse it off, wipe it, or not rinse it off, excuse me, clean it off as best you can, and then give it a light oil of lubricant.
Real quick, I want to jump in
because I just want to throw this out there. If you haven't thought about it, and if you were in the military, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm not trying to condescend to everybody else, but dental picks are huge in cleaning kits. Toothbrushes, especially a really hard bristle toothbrush, great tool to have in your kit. Again, and that's the stuff in your on-person, in your ruck, in your car, or at home kit, like Q-tips, like I just said, and I'll shut up, but like, pipe cleaners, Redbeard, let's come over to you. Or actually,
I'd like to say one quick thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, if that's all right.
Here's what we're going to do. You go ahead and comment. I'm going to read comments, and then we're going to turn it over to Redbeard. Yeah. He's been, the czar has patiently just been, he's been waiting. He's been really, he's been good.
Well, yeah, I saw John's two comments there, so I figured I'd answer these just real briefly.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. You're stealing my thunder now, man.
Well, that's what I was trying to do. Well, you can read the comments and I'll answer them. So go ahead, Mark.
So your thing was about the comments.
Yeah, that's the whole thing I was trying to jump in on.
Okay, here we go. And then we had Learn Me Something when manscaping. Yeah, okay, we're just going to move on past that.
I was just reading the most recent two.
I don't know I don't even remember what we were talking about for Learn Me Something to say that. But hey, way to see if we've had enough drinks to make mistakes. I'm already screwing up the Pew Pew Learn Me Something. Don't make it more difficult. And then Just Grizz from Snowshoe Dave. Jeremy, I did the link already. It didn't work for you, but it worked for me. I'll pull it back up in a second.
Okay.
And then John is saying his Pew Pew kits, a folding saw pouch with a can side. He doesn't believe in ear pro. You say that until you get tinnitus, dude. Once you have tinnitus, it's no longer funny, right?
Oh yeah.
That shit is just like that stuff from Vegas. It stays with you for the rest of your life and it doesn't go away, Yeah. So plain and simple. Jeremy, again, we already said that. John can't put a light on every Pew Pew. We'll get into that in a little second because that, everybody puts a lot of weight into that. And I kind of have a little bit more of a neutral perspective because it's just a tool in the toolbox. I remember clearing a compound once with somebody I'd never worked with before. And I did it under nods. And he's like, "You're doing this under nods?" I'm like, "We ain't doing this under white light, mother effer." I mean, like, dude, there's, if we're white light, because what is white light? It's like, there's a guy holding the flashlight. So, so maybe Okay, you do you. We're not going to get into tactics right now. We're talking about kits, right? So John saying love the hex wrenches. Exactly. That you need that kind of stuff. But now he's got a comment here for everybody else. The Leatherman Surge has a bunch. Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it has a bunch of bits in one of the little slots. Yeah, with the ratchet extension. Great comment there, Gimli. Yeah, they're expensive, but again, that is a tool in your kit you should have, because there's a lot of things on different Pew Pew platforms that require different size tools, different types of drawing, whatever. Great. Yeah, I don't own one of those ones. I've seen them. They are expensive, but if you got the money, do it. You guys, anybody want to talk about that? Otherwise, I'm going to keep going and we're almost done.
Let's keep rolling through.
Okay, here we go. Then he wants to know, Grizzly, where's your flashlight? Because your lighting.
Because the lighting. Yeah, it's inside on the charger. We'll go with that.
Yep. Okay, but then here we go. We had a question
what I was going to get
at. For cleaning your can. We'll come back to that. Let's just go through these, but let's come back to the can. I can
answer that one too. I know what's going on there.
Okay, so you're below freezing.
Those are the two I was going to ask.
Well, and it's any other type of chemical. It's not just necessarily petroleum based. Right? So okay, so great comment though, right? Is there, you can purchase the brushes? Man, I don't know if I've even seen those anymore, but like I've got 3 of them. John, are you talking about these guys? Like I bought the crap out of these things, and I think I've got like.
Oh, those are just shaving brushes.
Yeah, but it's the military ones. They're way more. That's what that was part of your F kit back in the military. And then Paul BCP is in the house. I like it. Never look in the place you think it landed, because it's always somewhere. Man, Paul is so correct. I rely on my hearing, like ting, 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 ting. I'm like, oh, okay, it rolled over there to the right, because I think it went here. But then, Paul, to your point, you hear ting, ting, ting. It bounced over there, but then it bounced the other way, and then an echo. Be like, do not rule that stuff out. Paul is absolutely right. It's always in the someplace else. I don't know. Learn me something's talking about gunning deer. I'm just going to look at these.
It was a reference from the previous comment you had read earlier.
Right. Yeah. VTech Leatherman, and it gets used quite a bit. Yeah. There you go. Bit kits. Oh, he's talking about that one that Gimli just mentioned. And then, what just happened here? Sorry, guys. I'm not sure what happened. Yeah. And then, no. Okay.
Yeah. I got the answer to that too. Oh, okay. Yeah. So you're talking about the one that I had right here. That's probably a similar brush. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Those, I'll answer this one real quick. Brownells.com, Midway USA. So this is a nylon version. I believe this one is either Brownells brand or Hoppy's brand. It looks like this one's Brownells brand. They're about $3 a brush. The nylon ones work pretty well. If you really want to get aggressive with it, I highly advise buying what's called bronze phosphorus, or just a bronze brush. That's going to be stable on any of your parkerizing, bluing, any kind of the standard finishes. You can get pretty darn aggressive with them. If you have a really, really aggressive brush need, you can go with a stainless steel. All of them are about $4 to $5 a piece. Unfortunately, right now, I don't know why all the bronze ones are sold out everywhere. It's driving me nuts. They're like $10 a piece otherwise. But that's the brushes I would use. Brownells is probably your best source for it. As far as cleaning a suppressor, I'll make this as quick as I can, because Jeremy, I know you want to get some shit in. I mean, some poo-poo in here. But anyway, so cleaning a suppressor, there's a couple ways to do it. If you have removable baffles, I'd remove the baffles, hand clean them, just wipe them off. The carbon should come off the stainless steel or titanium or whatever the baffle's made out of relatively quickly. If you have a sealed baffle suppressor, I would recommend submerging in some Dawn dish soap, just like you would a black powder firearm. Let it soak overnight, clean it out, blow it out real well, maybe even put it in the oven at about 150 degrees or whatever the lowest setting of your oven is, just to kind of bake out the last of that moisture. However, it's a bit of a misnomer to clean your suppressors. You actually have a pressure curve and a sound curve. So as things are getting quiet or as things are getting dirtier, your suppressor's dropping decibels. And then you'll kind of get a diminishing return once it gets so stinking dirty that it'll start getting loud again, because it's actually increasing the surface area for volume to be on not in a positive manner.
Go the other direction. Go the other direction.
Yeah.
Turn
Okay.
your body and the phone the other direction.
Nope. All right. There we go. Sorry, I got dark again.
I've been trying to tell you to come into the light, man.
So anyway, maintenance of a suppressor is a pretty darned easy thing. As far as the Red Army using petroleum products, what they were doing was they were thinning their lubricants. So the lubricants they had were probably a relatively thick petroleum-based lubricant. So they were probably using a thinner petroleum like gasoline or white gas, something along those lines, to thin that lubricant to be able to allow it to not gelatinize. So one of the big issues that my customers run into around hunting season is they'll use Remington oil as both a cleaning aid and a lubricant. Because it comes with a straw, they just think that means blow it on the inside and everything will be fine. It sucks because like 2 or 3 times a year I get somebody that misses an animal, sustenance hunters that miss animals because this. And why that is because there's a lot of additives added into the lubricant, as well as other just various varnish like causing things. And once those mix with carbons and it cools, it gelatinizes. And you can actually test this and fire a firing pin off in a firearm and actually see that spring slow down and that firing pin just slowly expand and go. You can almost hear it go. I think I can. Yeah. So that's what they were doing when they were adding gasoline, and it was a thinning agent to the lubricant. And this is actually, there's a recipe that they call bug juice that I do sell. That if I don't have my website up right now, but it's a lubricant that we make in house that I got from an old salty boy who served, that has a bunch of different additives in it that you can actually make from basically any base on anywhere in the in the world for that matter. And it works in both Arctic temperatures and desert temperatures. And the big key to that, the one thing I'll let you know, is add a little hoppies to it. Thin it out. Hoppies number 9 added to your lubricant will allow you to operate in colder temperatures or drier temperatures. It's just, it's about 1 part per 9 parts of oil. And that will kind of help thin that a little bit to be able to operate in multiple different environments. So I'll stop talking about lubricants. I think that kind of answers your questions there, John, but I'm going to go ahead and hand that off to Czar. So
before the Czar takes it, don't move right there. Like, you
I'm trying.
Work with us, get the lighting, right? Okay. But
it looks like something out of a UFO movie, though.
Well, there is a connection between Sasquatch and UFOs, so that kind of makes sense.
There is.
Kind of like it.
ET phone home.
But I just want to add again, and I said it at the very beginning, I'm not going to be the guy who's going to sit and talk about the ballistic coefficient of this green and over this distance, like this twist and that length, like it's a tool. But to Blake's point on lubrication, I mean, that's like putting the wrong gas in your car. And I can say from a firsthand experience, having both been in the military, in an Arctic light, infantry unit, having to deal with again, we just made a joke. It's super warm here right now, but normally this would still be 20 to 40 below. Maybe not quite that. We're in March, but
cold.
But cold, right? Yeah. And so the wrong lubrication, and then conversely, so being in the other sandboxes, it's the same damn thing. So that is something that you have to. That's a tool in your F kit, but that's got to come from here. It's got to come from your knowledge, and it's got to come from taking that step back and saying, if this is what I have, how am I going to make this work under those environments? And so that was a great question from Gimli. Thank you very much. So the Czar. Now, Czar, you're from one of those environments. Maybe you've got something to add to it, sir.
So I think the conversation of lubricant can't actually be oversold, in my opinion.
That's not what she said. Sorry, Screw Tube. Sorry.
I don't think it gets innuendo. The AI is not that good, man.
So I have to harp on it, but there's before I get back to that particular conversation, there is something that, Blake brought up a really good point as it pertains to like plastic baggies. Organization and keeping all your stuff together is really, really big. Another thing that I would even suggest, even if you're just doing work at your house, is don't be afraid to be the guy that takes pictures of every little item that you have, because it will save you way more than you'll ever imagine. There's been projects that I've done on some of my stuff, and I'll take a picture. I'm like, okay, this is everything I took out of this firearm. That way I know, in case for whatever reason, and Blake and Mark know this, you'll be trying to do something and all of a sudden that tiny little spring will yeet into the ether, and you're like, okay, I know for a fact that this is what this spring is. I have a picture. I'm going to go up or online, buy it, or I can go to my local gun shop, buy it. I know exactly what I need.
Now, just real quickly, and I apologize, but you just mentioned something, and I thought we would say this earlier, but I totally overlooked it.
Yeah.
So again, an F kit. This to what Redbeard and Blake was talking about this too, but we're all kind of laughing and talking over it. And when you're out in the field, if you're out there hunting and you just dropped, $15,000 for this elk hunt, or it's your life at stake, you cannot afford to lose a single pin, a single spring. That's what I'm saying. So I always on my person downrange, I had a little spare part kit for all of those little tiny things. Now, I never tried to do it while I was out there doing stuff, but suddenly, hey, I've been out here for 72 hours now. That wasn't what was anticipated, but I'm still here and I have to do some weapons maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what happens when you lose a pin there? Well, you better have a backup, right? So sorry, Jeremy, but that's a great point.
Redundancy.
I'm happy you brought that up.
What was that, Blake?
Redundancy.
Yeah, 100%.
Contingencies. Like that's, if what's the old saying is, 1, you got none, 2, you're almost out, and 3, you're just barely.
1 is not, 2 is 1 is none.
That's what it is. Yep.
And that's
all right, Redbeard.
So I think like having an extra part kit for whatever it is that you're running, it's again, and I said this the last time, like all of this is going to be situational to you as an individual. So know what you need, understand what it is your needs, and what are the things that are going to get you through, because in the end of the day, that's who you're prepping for. Unless of course you have a wider community or whatever, then you have obviously different considerations. Now, that being said, aside from the pictures, the extra parts and stuff like that, now I don't know, and I'm going to kind of put this out to Blake too, but there's 2 things that I want to talk about in particular. So what are the high wear areas? The high wear areas is going to be anything concerning your bolt carrier group, for one. It's a very, very high stress area. But you need to show your rails some love. Your rails, I think, are so overlooked by a lot of people because they're like, oh, it's just the thing that guides like your bolt carrier. It's like, no, that's kind of a big deal. You can have chipping, you can have abrasion over time that's going to wear those rails down faster than it needs to. Go ahead, Mark.
A really weird or jammed up double feed, and then too much pressure, and now you'll get a burr in that, and things, and now you'll start getting it once out of every 10, every 20 rounds.
So I actually had an 1187 in the shop, like, I don't know, maybe 5 months ago, getting ready for fall season. And guy that bought this, he bought it when he was 14. He has shot the dog piss out of it. I mean, this gun has seen some work, shot some birds. And it has gone to a single shot, and it was having cycling issues, feeding issues. It was just everything that could go wrong was going wrong. So I took it apart and cleaned it. I mean, I had to replace about 7 parts in it. It was exhausted. It really was one of the most tired 1187s I've seen. But while I was cleaning the internals on the action, I ran my finger not once, not twice, but 3 times across the rail. And he had shot it so much, and Remington is notorious from factory from not deburring their rails. That thing slit my fingers open like nobody's business. One time I almost thought about actually giving myself a suture. It was that good. But that's the thing, is you overlook it. And the simplest way to think about really both lubrication and wear areas is where do we have metal on metal? Where do the contact point meet? Where's the rubber hit the road, as it were? in those regions, those are the areas we want to focus on lubrication. And lubrication too, a lot of people, they go, well, if 1 drop's good, 2 drops is better, 3 drops is great. That's not the right mentality when we're dealing with lubrication. The proper mentality for lubrication is we're going to put a single drop on that contact point. We're going to spread it across with our finger carefully so we don't just open our finger up like I was just talking about. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go in with a blue towel and we're going to wipe it all away, basically. And what you do when you do that is you've left just the thinnest sheen of lubrication across the surface of that metal, filling in the little micro pores that are there, giving it a nice viscous surface so that it can operate properly and not hold on to an excessive amount of dirt and carbon.
Thank you.
And this gives us the best of both worlds.
Well,
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, man. I feel bad now.
No, and I'm not trying to hang on, and I'm not trying to steal both of your thunder. I just have to step off to the side a second, but I can hear you. I want you guys to talk about that because that to me is like one of the biggest misconceptions. And I can't tell you. So I love that you guys just brought that up. Thank you.
Yeah. And so, Blake, I'm so happy that you said that because if you weren't going to say it, I was going to be like, and here's why you don't over lubricate things. And to that point, I know a lot of people that, they try to or they attempt to maintenance firearms and they're just like, I got to lubricate everything. There's certain things you don't lubricate. One of them is in and around your gas system. Don't put any lubrication in your gas area.
No
please.
need for it.
There are certain areas that you do and certain areas that you don't. And the rail area, the bolt carrier group, high friction areas, yes, you want to have a good coating, not too much, but enough just to keep that friction mitigated. And this is another thing that I think is kind of controversial, but you have people that for whatever reason, I grew up with it and I heard it all the time. But you have people that are like, oh, you got to white glove your barrel. You have to white glove your barrel. And it's like, that is one of the biggest misnomers. And I would say like one of the biggest pieces of fan fiction I've ever heard in my entire life, because when you really look at, groupings and when you look at consistency, you have like this break-in period. And if you over clean your barrel, you lose that zeroing. But if you allow it to get too fouled up, you'll start having flyers. You want to add something to that, Blake?
Well, I was going to say, that's a pretty common question we get asked is, when I get a new gun, what's the break-in? Do I do 3-round groups and run patches through it? Do I do 5-round groups and run patches through it? And most often when I tell people my answer, they're kind of shocked by it. Just shoot it. Shoot like 20, 25 rounds through, run a couple patches through it, do that like 8 times. Break in on certain firearms is going to be anywhere from 150 to 200 rounds. That's going to allow the lapping process to take place. I mean, what we're doing when we're shooting is if there is any burrs or anything along those lines is we're taking those raised up burrs, we're running them out at the end of the bore. I mean, theoretically, if you're shooting clean ammunition, every time you shoot, it's blowing out the majority of what was there previously. And over cleaning can be an issue. And I know people that they go, oh, well, I shoot lapped bullets to lap in my barrel. And I mean, yeah, you can do that, but why? I mean, it's
well, hang on, boys. Just slow down the geek fest a little bit. You guys are getting into your geeking out armor, your armor. Because the key thing that I really liked about where you guys were going is don't overclean driver, and it's always amazed me. So I grew up as a kid hunting my whole life. Then I'm in the military, and Redbeard, you were talking about the white glove. I'm like, you don't white glove. What do you?
And there's a lot of people that because that's what was sold to them with these new modern firearms. My biggest issue with the modern industry, as it were, right now, is everybody's thinking that they can spend $3 or $4 more grand on this just wing wang wazzle awesome thing, and it's gonna make them go get the big one when they've forgotten that granddaddy's firearm. First off, granddaddy's looking over your shoulder when you're shooting that gun. That's the first thing you never want to forget. Is you're not just the only one squeezing that trigger when you pull it. And beyond that is granddaddy used to know about Kentucky windage. He used to know about, how to just shoot, what to instinctually do. Doesn't need all these fancy new modern scopes with these fancy new electronic wing wangs in them. You know, the thing is like if you just learn the platform, you know, because that's not, and I've said it.
Hang on. And maybe you're digging yourself. I just want to throw this out there because I don't want this to get into this. You know, we're already over an hour, but I don't want to go down too much this road. Look, there's no doubt about it. A state of the art optic is phenomenal.
Awesome.
That's like having the difference between a Bic lighter and a bow drill. Like, no, I'm going to go down that road. But what I agree with you on, and which really appalled me in the military, is that level of skill from on my way out. I saw that gone away. No one was just doing sights. No one was talking about windage, full value, half value.
Seriously.
You know, uphill, downhill, hot day. None of that stuff was even in the conversation anymore.
It's one of the reoccurring things, Mark, that we keep coming back to in every facet of the conversations that we have. We are relying too heavily on technology. We hit a high water mark, right? Where, man, what we built was beautiful. It was well maintained. It was timed, pristine, and it did exactly what it said on the tin. To a point now where we're relocating the skills that we developed around those platforms and giving them to a computer and allowing them to take over our thinking skills. And that's the thing is, like, you know, you get somebody who goes out west and they want to go on this big muley hunt. They've been saving up for years and they really, really want to get a great class muley up in like the high 180s. And they're going out there and they've spent all the time. But then the next thing you know, they're buying a $2,500 Burr scope that tells them where to hold the bullet. Why not just spend $1,000 on ammunition and finger time out at the range and become a good shooter? Like, you're going to be money ahead and have developed more skills.
And Redbeard, tell us where that is a bad weekend and that's not fun. Hanging out there with like, you're like, all right, you know, okay, you were 2 minutes of angle off. Oh, I got to shoot again. Like, you know, no. Tell me where that's a bad idea, Redbeard.
At the end of the day, the goal is to remove the variables off the platform and put them on your shoulders so you can improve and hone your skills. Right. Because that's all that freaking matters. If you can improve your skills with one platform, you're going to be a better shot on every platform. Not because you have this fancy scope with this fancy digital spotter and this fancy this, that, and the other. You're just good. And that's the thing. You really want to talk about survival because that's what all these F kits even come down to. Everything we're talking about comes down to survival. It's thinking ahead. It's being that human on the Serengeti going, I need to cross this ravine. How can I do it? Well, if I jump across the ravine, I'm going to fall and I'm going to break my leg. But if I push over that tree, maybe I could walk over the tree. Or better yet, I could weave a rope and I could make a rope bridge across it. You know, that's why humans advance to the level that we're at right now. But when we start reliquating too much of this to technology, man, we're going to fall off the high point real quick. So
Redbeard, turn it over to you though. I mean, my only comment though is I don't want to poo-poo technology. Right. So Blake, I'm agreeing yet disagreeing. I agree with you. You need to master, like that's the start point. The ground level. As I turn it over to Redbeard, like the pillars are the basics. Knowing your platform, knowing how to disassemble it, knowing how to clean it, like what we're talking about now, knowing how to, again, taking all these other variables into consideration just with iron sights, uphill, downhill, cold weather, hot weather, da. But because I really believe, Redbeard, if you have that mastery, even if you don't master it, but you're knowledgeable of it, then you take that other piece of tech and now you're like, oh, I'm like a freaking Jedi all of a sudden, right? I think it improves your skills. What do you think on that?
And so I am very much of the realm of keep it simple, stupid. So when I look at technology, right, I look at technology as supplementary to things that we should fundamentally understand.
Yeah.
And that being
trying to say.
Yeah. And so that being
there it is. No, Blake just said it. It augments it.
It augments our capabilities. It improves, but does not need.
Right. And so it's one of those things to where it's like, hey, you know, when you have this at your disposal, it's fantastic. But at the same time, you also have to understand its strengths, its weaknesses, how to use it, et cetera, et cetera. And we're in a time, I saw this even like in and around the years I was just getting ready to get out of high school, where I saw so many firearms manufactured, a lot of deer rifles actually. And I know some people are going to argue about this. You don't need it, whatever. To me, it seemed very odd that there was like a decade in which firearms were manufactured with no iron sights. And my whole thing was like,
Feel that way.
it's like, okay, like I get it, like you're marketing these firearms as like more of precision bolt guns, but it is kind of weird that you're still not going to provide some other type of system to fire that weapon with some form of accuracy, i.e. iron sights. And with that, what I also started to notice is when you started seeing no iron sights come out on basic firearms, then you started to lose this idea that people are like, wait, I have to actually zero iron sights? Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, like that's a thing. My first rifle, my first full-size rifle was an SKS. I learned how to zero that SKS, and it from the moment I got it, I understood the ranging, I understood how to adjust and sight those iron sights in. And it's very important because if you don't understand that even irons have to be sighted in, and Mark just talked about a front sight adjustment tool for a handgun, like you have to do these things. And it's like, we're at a point to where, like, to what both of these guys are talking about is like, technology is beautiful. It is a amazing thing that can augment and improve to some degree your ability to accurately fire a weapon system. But at the same time, like, we got to be very trepidatious about the fact that like this thing is going to solve all of our problems. And it's, with that being said, it's one of those things to where it's like, if you go and drop $5,000 on a rifle, it may be a very precise rifle, but it's not going to fix that you're an imprecise person. And
but if you spend $6,000 on a rifle, I build you. Yeah. It'll be a really good rifle, and I will help you become a good shot.
Look at that. That's worth the extra $1,000 in and of itself. And real quick, so I just want to add, while firearms are machines and they're mechanical marvels and they're wonderful things, they have elevated our ability to hunt, to defend ourselves, all of that. They're not all created the same. There's so many different actions, and there's some obscure ones that I'm sure Blake has seen. Some of them that just kind of make you wonder, like, okay, this is kind of disgusting, but very cool. I don't know why he did this.
The Ludic space gun.
Yeah, and it's like, the one thing I want to point out is, real quick, we had talked about lubrication, and this can be one of your best friends too, if you know how to use it.
White lithium grease is awesome stuff.
Hang on. Before you guys go too nerdy, but I just want to bring it back to a serious, and I totally forgot about even mentioning that. That's actually good in multiple realms, multiple applications.
Yeah.
So
high
five
Love
you.
Me some white lithium.
That's why you're the Tsar Baroda. Like, that actually is a very good thing to have in your kit.
I have like 5 tubes of it at my house for so many different things because it works so well,
Yeah.
Oh,
white lithium is good stuff.
Hey, we're at an hour, and let's just call it an hour 15. Let's just give it another 15 minutes. We'll go a little bit long tonight because we bullshitted, but which is fine. But I wasn't prepared for this, but just to Redbeard's comments, man, you got to get out there and you got to do the work, right? You got to zero, because if that optic, if that cool, Wahoo, whiz bang, whatever, thing fails, that bright shiny thing, you got to keep bringing it down all the levels to include your hands, like da-da-da. So if you become too reliant on just the one thing, that technological bright shiny thing, bright shiny things are good, but they're also, they could potentially just turn out to be a very heavy rock in your rucksack. So just I just wanted to throw that out there. And when you said that, Czar,
don't allow something that can augment or even supplement your abilities to become a crutch. I mean, and it's so easy to the point to where it's like, oh, I have this. I don't need to think. Like Blake was saying, there literally are optics on the market today that do everything, and including probably make you breakfast. And I guarantee you that those people, that there's a lot of people out there that buy these, and they have every right to. I mean, if that's your thing, go for it. But it still doesn't take away from the fact that like a lot of people that, well, maybe these people aren't those people, but there's still a lot of people that I see on an annual basis, and Blake knows probably where I'm about to go with this, and it's a pet peeve of his. But they'll go in, they'll sight in like 3 days before hunting with the ammo that they're not going to use. And then they're like, why did I miss the deer by like 3 feet? It's like, my guy, like, you have to use the ammo that you're going to shoot the deer with to know exactly where your zero is going to be. I mean, this is a big deal. And the reason for that, and I'll end it on this point, is because ammo behaves differently depending on the barrel length, the amount,
the twist.
The twist ratio.
It depends on the mood that the frickin' machinist was in making the gun.
Yeah, barrel harmonics and I mean, like, it sounds stupid, and these are actually pretty relatively simple concepts for a person to look at and be like, okay, I have a basic understanding. This is why I have to do this before I go hunting. This is available information, and there's no amount of precision, high-speed optic that tells you exactly the drop and how many yards and all that's going to save you from just simply switching to the ammunition that you intend to use.
Well, and even beyond that,
Blake, if you don't mind, please don't
respond. Go ahead.
Because we're at an hour 20.
Yeah.
I want to just like hit some of the comments and then turn it over to you guys for the last 10, 15 minutes for your guys' final comments. Let's try to keep it an hour and a half. But I like, so we kind of have turned the corner a little bit. Now we're talking to a little bit of actual platforms and techniques and stuff. Yeah. But back to the F kit, I still think that this was a great conversation, and it's still very important because as Redbeard and then, fucking Sasquatch. Oh God, I just ruined the algorithm. I just dropped it. Oh, screw you, algorithm. But even to what, even to Sasquatch and this like shady car beer drinking thing. But even to the point, it's like there's so much to this. And so just on a personal note, we're talking about Pew Pew kits. We're actually really talking about how to maintain, clean, improve upon data. But at the end of the day, so much of that, it's so much deeper than that. There's so much more involved. It's like when somebody says to me, well, just sew it on there. Like, oh yeah, if only that was
just slap it on there, Mark.
Yeah, just slap it on there,
man. It'll buff.
Hey, let me just do some comments here, boys, and then let me come back to you guys, give you guys about 5-10 minutes each, and let's just kind of round it up. I think we left off with I wanted to come back to Gimli. So Blake, Jeremy, you guys can make a comment because I never clean my can this way, so I'm kind of out of touch here. He wants to know, can he clean his suppressor with a brass scraper? It looks like a pencil.
Yeah, if he's using if it's bronze phosphorus, which most of your brass scrapers, like what looks like brass is bronze phosphorus, you'll be fine. Unless it's made out of like some super pot metal crap. And honestly, if that's the case, your can's not worth a darn anyway. Not trying to be mean. If you can't use bronze on like what it's made out of, it sucks. You shouldn't have any issue scraping it off. But honestly, if you're having carbon buildup that's that intense, you need to clean your can more often.
Well, hey, and then before I go into the next comments, though, just on that note, because we're talking cans, I use cans extensively in my agency time, not so much my military time. We just didn't do that. I was, infantry, but and even when I was in training, SF, we weren't doing that type of training. So my whole experience, real world experiences from the agency. I mean, seriously, I was never concerned about cleaning my can half the time. I mean, like it wasn't having an impact on my ballistics.
Yeah.
Whether it was, so can you guys?
I hate to say, but Yeah, no, cans are like a set it and forget it kind of thing for the most part.
Yeah.
Well, no,
They
hang
really
on. Okay, no, right there. So I don't, just so no one thinks we're being, dishonest. Putting a can on changes my ballistics, but
for sure.
once I re-zero back to our previous comments,
Right.
then it didn't matter how dirty it was. That did not change my ballistics. That's
Yeah. And that's your biggest change in a suppressor is going to be your decibels. Like I said, there's an arc where they're loudest when they're first super clean, they're quietest at that sweet point of dirty, and then they start to get loud again. And really, once you shoot that loud can when it's super dirty a couple times, it's going to go back to the level it wants to be. Like, honestly, cans are one of those things you don't really need to maintain too much unless you're doing a lot of full auto shooting. You're burning that carbon on, all right, maybe. But if you're just doing general suppressor use, dude, they really are like a just freaking use it. We have a 300 blackout that we used to use for testing all of our subsonic blackout. And I mean, this thing's literally had like, I don't know, 25,000 rounds shot through it, anywhere from semi-auto to full auto. Like, this thing's just been put through the paces. We actually called it the Ridiculous because it was made out of the cheapest parts we could possibly build an SBR out of. And I never cleaned the suppressor that was on it, man. And it still just like sounds like someone's striking a hammer in the next room over. They're just, they're bulletproof. No pun intended.
And I just want to add real quick to kind of that point. Like, if something like that is a genuine concern of somebody, there's two areas that I would suggest somebody look at, and you do kind of get nerdy here, but I'll keep it simple. Double check your gas setting if that's a thing, because that does make a difference.
For sure.
I know it sounds pretty redundant or basic, but seriously, it will make a difference. And not only that, though, there are aftermarket gas kits and kits that you can use to help improve the performance of running a can. You just have to know what you're looking for. You have to read up on it and figure out what's going to work best for you. But there are things that you can do. It just, how much are you actually willing to put into running a can? So
and I can't get into your guys' level of technical level for this, but it's always been the case, if you're running an AR platform, if your gas rings are getting too close to being in alignment, that's going to be
sure.
that's going to be issues for you.
And honestly, I'm gonna kind of explain that a little bit more, because that's something that everybody that runs those sorts of platforms should know. So when you're looking at your FCG, your fire control, or your bolt carrier, BCG, sorry, your bolt carrier group.
Yep.
On the bolt head, the actual portion that looks like a sprocket, if you will, okay? Right around the backside of that, where it kind of goes to a reduced diameter and runs into the body, there are 3 spring clips that sit on there, okay? And what that is to create a seal around there and kind of smooth everything out. When those are 3 moons, in essence, they have little cuts in them, and you never, ever, ever want to align those 3 springs. You want them to be about 90 degrees opposite of each other, 110, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Just, you don't want to line them up. That's going to cause all sorts of issues. I actually had a buddy of mine who was an armorer in the armory, and you wouldn't believe how many guys would come in for inspection and go, "Hey, I got these lined up, but it's not running." Be like, well, dummy. I mean, come on now. Like, there's a reason for this. So, here's your sign, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So, then when it, I don't know if we're going off tangent or whatever. Who cares? This is what it is. Matter of fact, I think going forward, boys and girls, they all have to be like this, whether it's an hour live stream, an hour and a half, over on CLS, we're trying to do Joe Rogan, style episodes. I think I'm just going to embrace it because it's just too much fun. And we got some really good questions here. I mean, seriously, we got some good questions. So John was saying he does a lot of plinking with it, but it gets dirty really fast. So on that, before we go any further, I mean, that isn't necessarily the can's problem. That might be the
ammo.
Yep, I was going to say.
And if you're flanking, that implies that you're shooting 22 long rifles. That's going to be that's par for the course when you're shooting 22s. And the other thing you got to think about too, if you're using like a direct impingement system, like on an AR, that's throwing a lot of carbon back into the platform. I mean, that's your big trade-off whenever you're running suppressed. You're throwing that carbon back into the system. So
real quickly. So
Yeah.
it's going from the gas tube. So here's your upper receiver, your barrel. The gas tubes come, here's your star chamber. That gas tube's coming up, and that's coming right back, because as Jeremy just said, and not every platform has the gas regulator, but gas is definitely being regulated. And if that starts coming, being kicked back, now where your bolt is coming into your muzzle or your barrel, that star chamber, okay,
And
Blake, I just wanted to paint that picture for people running those platforms. It's slightly different on an AK, but the concept, the principle is still the same.
Well, and that's the thing. It's a piston system on the cable. So that's like when we're dealing with a direct impingement, what's happening is that bullet's not leaving the bore before you start going through the unlock process. So we have a lot more carbon that's getting thrown back into your face. So your big trade-off when you're dropping the decibels, so you're protecting your ears, is that you're putting more carbon in your face. So instead of wearing Ear Pro, you're going to wear Eye Pro. And that's actually one of the things I'd really recommend. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
No. So many guys I've known, it's like, oh my God, I've got all this CLP in my eye.
Yeah, for real.
That goes back into our conversation about lubrication and
and I just
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say real quick, and Blake probably knows about this, but to what Mark was saying about the different platforms and stuff like that, if there is an aftermarket system for gas regulation, take like an AK, for instance, right? So that regulation system is actually, you can find it through a company like KNS, I believe it is, and they do special gas pistons that are adjustable gas pistons that allow you to actually regulate that. Otherwise, a standard AK, to my knowledge, doesn't typically have a regulating piston. So what you get is what you get, unless of course,
Redbeard, but I think that's the case on all AK platforms. I don't think any of them. Go ahead.
It's an aftermarket thing. The piston adjustability is going to be aftermarket.
Yeah,
but being able to tune your platforms is very imperative if you're going to run suppressors.
Now we're getting into geek world, and I only ran 416s for a short period of time. I did not like the 416. I did one deployment with my 416, and I said I could have died because of this thing. I'm going back to my stoner. And then my 416 sat back in the States for my training, but and I don't know if I'm kind of taking us down a different rabbit hole, but when you guys are talking about this, if people don't understand, do you guys want to add a little bit to that so people understand kind of what we're talking about as far how that gas regulation system works within, because that goes into the kit you need, right? And the type of cleaning tools and everything.
The easiest way to think about gas regulation is for every force, there's an equal and opposite force. Or for every reaction, there's an equal and opposite reaction. What we're trying to do is provide the exact amount of input for a system without overdriving what it needs, because we don't want that system to beat itself to death. It's the same thing for an adjustable piston. It's the same for an adjustable gas block. We only want enough for the round that we're using. So like, I'm kind of a geek when it comes to 300 blackout. We cut our teeth here at Fog Firearms on the blackout. Honestly, I'm not tooting my own horn, but we were the first that actually got the thing up and running for a subsonic on a consistent basis for basically every platform that's out there. And why that is we operated in what's called the transonic range. So right around 10, 15 FPS. We didn't want the thing to go supersonic. We didn't want it to be too slow on the subsonic, because we needed to provide the impetus to actually cycle that cartridge through the AR platform. And inside of that too, we were trying to hit the sweet spot for the ballistic accuracy of the round itself, also expansion and things like that. So there's a lot of things to consider. But the goal here, but the goal here is finding that sweet spot that runs everything. And Blackout's a notorious cartridge that most of the platforms, when you pick it up and you go to shoot subsonic, they need some tuning. The gas hole is going to need to open up a little bit. You're going to need to actually run like a Gen 3. So it's a Gen 1 or a Gen 3 PMEG. Don't ask me why. Gen 2 PMEGs are terrible. GI MEGs are great. They have enough spring pressure on them. You might want to play around with the buffer spring weight, but once you've tuned these things and run subsonic, you can sit there with a full auto trigger group and drop like literally thousands of rounds in a row, cook a piece of bacon on the suppressor and that thing's still going to keep clicking along. And that's the thing. And that's why we've talked
and
about
not just clicking along, but as we said earlier, but not require a ton of maintenance. Yep.
Bingo.
Yep.
And that's why we've talked about lubrication and proper maintenance of these sorts of things, because listen, at the end of the day, man, it's a tool. And when a tool is properly maintained and it's happy, it's going to do exactly what it was designed for. And when we're in a crisis situation and we need that tool to operate, whether it's putting meat on the table, or as one of my favorite gunsmithing instructors said, it's he actually could have probably gotten in some trouble over this, but he said dispatching a bipedal varmint. You know, you want that stuff to operate properly. You know, when your life depends on it, whether it's for sustenance or for protection, you need to make sure your kit's in the most proper setting possible. And that's why, you might think it's excessive to tear that thing apart and clean it after every single shooting, but you're not going to think it's excessive when you're in the, in the alleyway, hiding behind a dumpster, trying to return fire from a crazed crackhead that's trying to steal your wife's purse.
I want to turn this over to Redbeard, but before I turn it over to the Czar, I just want to point out what Blake just said right there when he's talking about, after, you're shooting it, it doesn't have to be level, again, think about your level of maintenance. And I'm not going to you can think about it as level 1, level 3, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to call it. But, whether you're wiping it down, getting the big chunks of carbon off it with the toothbrush, just throwing some CLP on it, just scrubbing that stuff, wiping it completely dry with a good rag and Q-tips, and then just giving a light coat, whatever it is. But Blake is absolutely right. Dude, the more, just like any, hell, guys, I mean, I could go, we're going down rabbit holes. How many people even check their spark plugs or their oil? No one even does this stuff anymore, so
the machine's doing what it's supposed to do, boss.
Right.
My little computer printout tells me, I'm good. I can drive another 20 miles.
I have no mouth and I must scream.
Okay, here, we got to wrap this up because Blake says we got to do it. Sasquatch says we got to wrap it up. So let's wrap it up, which isn't bad. We're going to do more of these. And quite honestly, guys, before I read the comments and give you guys final your final options, I think I just heard you say you love me. I love you too, Blake. If
just remember I'm your +1, Mark.
Boy, it made me laugh so hard earlier. We're not going to do this story right now, but he's my +1. It was so freaking funny earlier today. And we all need that kind of stuff in our life. So hopefully you're finding this to be, again, I always screwed up, edutainment, educational.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah. So Blake is my +1. Sasquatch is my +1. I love it. Here's where we left off. I don't even remember where it was. One of you had made a comment about something. Groundfog chimed in and said he liked it. I really, and seriously, that was in 30 minutes ago. And
that's a painful comment. Don't even read it.
Take that away. Take that away.
No, I had to throw that up there. No, I had to throw that up there just for the fun of the conversation. And John is a great guy and he's helped out, and I've got a couple videos and all this kind of stuff, but that I haven't even released yet that he was helping me make on loadouts and stuff. But then he threw this out there, and this is why Marines eat crayons.
I was just going to say, maybe
dude.
Hey, John, how do you feel about that now? I just got to ask you, brother. John's going to call me up after
real quick, actually.
No, hang on.
Totally
hang on, real quickly. John's going to call me up after work tonight and be like, "You son of a bitch." All right, go ahead, Blake.
Well, out of all seriousness, you just said Marines eat crayons, and it just made me think about it. Kind of a weird one, but I did just get an email from one of my distributor companies that if anybody in this whole weird family of ours is interested in, I got a really, really good deal. I'd have to look it up again on full MRE pallets, 2025 manufacture date from the U.S. military right now. So if anyone did want to throw in on some MRE pallets, just an out there field thought, but just something I wanted to say before the end of the day.
So hang on. A pallet is larger than a case, and a pallet.
Yeah, it's a lot. I want to say it's $2,880 for a full pallet, but they're 2025 manufacturing date. and I want to say it's
Deer?
100 cases per pallet. I think.
So that's 1,200 MREs for, you said $2,000.
Yeah, for like $3 a piece, I think.
That's like that's
Holy
a fucking,
crap.
It's like a really good deal, and that's why I wanted to let everyone know. If this is something people really want, I got to get back into the chat because I haven't been in the chat since I got a new phone. But I could look into this if that's something people really wanted to pool together on. We could probably pick up an MRE pallet pretty reasonably.
If I have to step in to help facilitate things and then distribute, I have like 4 cases of MREs, and they're not that new. And I'm, and I didn't pay. I paid a shit ton more money.
Yeah, like $8 a piece, probably.
I was like $10, 10 or $12 a piece.
Well, don't quote me on this price. I can look it on. I'll try to get back on the chat server in the next couple of days, and I'll post that. If people are really interested, we can talk about it there. So
okay, let's do that over there.
Nice.
I want to give you guys some. We're gonna go here. Let's just be honest. We're gonna go to 2 hours tonight.
Yeah.
You guys.
Well, then I'm gonna put myself on pause and step out of the car for a minute because I got to hit the little boy
I'm
treat.
just gonna read comments. You just go do the natural thing of things. So then Gene says his Pew Pew is a slingshot. His cleaning kit's an Allen key, wipes, rubber lube. F kit for the guts when I get frame hitter or bounce back. For yourself. But I actually like this comment, Redbeard, because even though it's a slingshot, well, what if dry rot, exposure, sunlight UV does a lot of stuff to plastics, to rubber.
It does.
So you might need to have some of that material in a pouch on your person, because you don't want to be out in the woods. Have this opportunity to, take a rabbit, whatever's going to give you the sustenance that you and your family need. And then, now my, this dry rot and everything snapped. I use rubber bands every day for our production. We use rubber bands, plastic bags, how we're moving things. Man, I can't even tell you how many rubber bands I go through. They dry rot like there's no tomorrow. So
100%.
Redbeard, to your point, do you want to address that real quickly? Because no offense, Gene. That kind of sounded like, well, I don't really need to worry about that. I've got a slingshot. My argument is I don't operate with a slingshot, but I think no, you probably still want to be concerned.
And I think part of what Gene was saying too is I think he does have something to kind of coat and maintenance that rubber. Which, if that's the case, I think that's fantastic. It's kind of along the same vein, whether it's a slingshot, and Mark, you've probably seen this, and Blake, I would imagine you do too, but I've known of a few people that have done some searching for like respirators or like gas mask type systems before. I've done some research on it, and I have one. But what people don't realize is
that nobody in the military calls it a gas mask. It's a pro mask.
Okay, clarification. It's a pro mask. So that being said,
you were saying that, and I apologize. I said it was going to be a shit show tonight.
No,
in my mind,
a poo-poo show, Mark. A poo-poo show.
Well, we're so past that block.
But what I do want to emphasize, and Mark, you probably know about this, and I would assume that to some degree Blake does too. But it's like you have to maintenance the seal on that and make sure it doesn't get dried out, and make sure that because all of these things, I know this is a crazy idea to some people, but things do have an expiration date. And if you don't maintenance them, that expiration date comes a little bit quicker than it probably should. And so there is some care, whether it's a slingshot, whether it's a pro mask, or whatever else it is that your life depends on. We have to be mindful of the materials that are being used and how to properly maintenance those materials. It's the same across the board, whether it's clothes, guns, or any type of PPE. So,
just on that note, I've done this in the past. So again, we're using a clear vinyl made in America. But dude, if you put bug juice on this, you're gonna F it up, man. Yeah. So to your point,
yellow or something like that.
Know the materials, know the cost, know how caustic your elements are. Back to Blake talking about lubrication. I think it was about 2 weeks ago, Blake and I talked about tonight. Yeah, because we knew this is what our conversation was going to be. We were just bullshitting. But we were talking about, like, gosh, I wonder how many people know, cold weather, desert versus normal environment, that kind of stuff. So
for sure. No, I think knowing the limitations of the equipment that you're operating with is imperative to your survival in any kind of a crisis situation.
Well, it's basic math, basic science. If I'm using like toilet paper in an aquatic, wet weather environment, this is going to be crap, right? Whereas those blue towels you just mentioned would work a lot better.
And you can wash these things like up to 10 times.
Redbeard's doing it right now. Different lubricants. They all have different capabilities, qualities. I'm actually more on Blake's side of this argument because lubrication is a big thing. That's what she said. But lubrication really is a big thing for a platform, a Pew Pew platform. And if you're operating under different environmental considerations, think about hot and humid. What you're doing in Vietnam is different from what you're doing in Western
Afghanistan Iraq. Or in Ukraine or any theater. I mean, you have so many limitations from the environment you're operating in. I mean, even domestically here in the States, from Louisiana to Minnesota to California to New Mexico, I mean, you need to understand what environments you're operating in, and knowing the limitations of your equipment is imperative, and having backups of what is going to give out is important. You can game plan this a million different ways. And at the end of the day, if it really comes crashing down, none of us are ready, but we can be a little more ready than we thought we would be. And that.
No, hang on. I just want to say that's what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to give anybody a cookie cutter answer. There is no such thing. This is a conversation. We're having fun. Actually, I'm probably being a downer to these two guys because we were just like so bullshitting and out of control before we started. I'm trying to turn this into a legitimate podcast. Maybe leave a comment after the video, you guys at home. No, you guys should just like talk and be stupid. That's what we want to hear. We want to hear some like stupid, knowledgeable people or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, let me just finish up the comments and let me bring it back to you guys. So we said Gene. Here we go. This is where we left off. Now, John and I already looked at the comments as you guys were talking. He's gone, I think, right now. But this is where we left off a little while ago. Not too long ago. Well, actually, about 30 minutes ago. He was saying something you were saying, Blake. Most hunters out west don't have a data book logging every shot. In Ohio, you need it because you're not going to shoot a deer at more than 100 yards. Oh, no. I was going to say that didn't make any sense. And then I realized I misread it. You don't need that in Ohio. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I misread that. No comment necessarily there. John. Now, maybe we save this for the end. If you guys want to address it, he's asking who out there knows how to adjust a front sight post. I do. I don't know why you don't. Maybe it's because you eat too many crayons, John. I'm not sure.
No. What you do is you do it the way I do it. You do it with a nice cheap brass hammer and a nice little punch, and then a granite block and a nice micrometer to make sure it's perfectly centered.
Well, there you go, John. Blake just answered that question. Moving on. John's got another question. Well, actually, this was a comment. He just got home from basketball practice. I think that's what BB stands for. And he's in there. The family's all watching a Ulysses S. Grant documentary. Okay. I don't know about the basketball side of it, Gimli, but Ulysses S. Grant, that actually sounds really cool. So good for you tonight. Appreciate you being here. Totally understand you got to go with family. Gene saying very informative chat, learning a lot. Thank you. Well, it's also 3 a.m. and Gene is severely intoxicated. So no one knows what he's talking about. John is all, so this is why I think he signed off. God bless everybody. That was like, almost 20 minutes ago. Learn me something. So this was a little over 10 minutes ago. Thanks for the guidance, pointers and insight. There are so many gun lubes. Why in the frick did this whole conversation turn into lube? Like,
because we're a bunch of dudes on the internet talking about awesome Pew Pews.
There's so many ways we could be picked on. So anyway, Learn Me Something says there are so many gun company hustling products, and you provided much needed clarity. Have a great night. Well, yeah, okay. Honestly, now that's actually kind of funny. I got one more comment, but then let's come to you guys. Because all three of us, boys and girls, we all talked about this, about lubrication of your weapons platform. We actually talked about this separately. And, you know, and it is an important subject. It's maybe one of the, I don't know, I'm not going to give it.
I think it's one. I actually think it is. I think it's one of the most important parts of firearm maintenance.
It's pretty damn close. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
Last comment that we have up right now in the chat, and then I'll bring it over to you guys for wrap up. And then Gene saying, you know, latex or rubber degrades if not kept clean and lubed. Well, and don't forget, it also degrades if it's affected by the improper type of alcohol-based substance. Yeah, Redbeard, why don't you just take it? I already see you. I'm chomping at the bit there, sir.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things to where it's like you have to be conscientious of what is going to affect what in terms of chemical profile and makeup and the reactivity of things. You know, and it might sound kind of ridiculous, but you know, not all lubricants are the same. You can't just slap whatever it is that you feel like you want on something because it seems like a good idea at the time. No, there are certain things that are applicable for certain situations. And Mark, you probably know about what I'm about to say as well as Blake. But if anybody's ever had to use Never Seas, one, you'll never get it off of your fingers without getting it on 100 other things. But it's a fantastic thing for a lot of like metallic or heavy industry type applications. Now, you're never going to see me use Never Seas on a firearm. Why? Because those two things don't mix very well. Whereas I would use like that white lithium like this. This is far more applicable for not only firearms, but a lot of different other things. See, it comes down to what your knowledge base is. If you have a question, don't be afraid to ask a question. You don't learn without asking. Amen. So, 100%, Mark. To your point, like understand what the chemical composition is, how it should be used, what it should be used with before you just start applying stuff.
And under what environmental
100%. Yeah, the environmental factors, the heat, and it might sound really dumb, but to that environmental thing, elevation can affect the efficacy of a lot of different things. So
having actually once spent 6 months at an elevation in which I technically should have been taking medicine for that. I kind of know what you're talking about, brother.
Yeah, it's crazy how you figured that out, right?
Well, you know, except we didn't, because no one gave me the proper meds, and you know, I think I may have shown that picture once. I know, Jeremy, you've seen it. I've shared it with you. Yeah, yep. I look like something out of World War II, like out of Auschwitz or Buchenwald or something. That it took me that actually almost took me 2 years to recover from. I know I'm going on a tangent. But maybe it's actually appropriate, because if you don't look at your environmental, your operating, your operational considerations from an environmental perspective, from a mechanical perspective, again, it isn't just do this. There's a lot of variables that come into play, and if you don't take them into account and don't address them appropriately, well, then your shit's gonna break and not work, or you're gonna be like, 3 years later, like grabbing your teeth as your teeth are falling out because you haven't had vitamin D for like the last 2 years or whatever.
For reference for that picture, by the way, I just want to say, Mark, you may have been akin to Gollum coming out of Middle Earth. I don't know it.
My precious.
I'm not saying it, Redbeard, so YouTube can't censor this, but I'm definitely giving that to you. So,
help me! I need water.
It was bad. Yeah. All right. That does not count as your outro. So let's just do the outros. We're almost at 2 hours. It's an hour 50. Let's bring it over to Sasquatch, who's been taking us through a tour of the woods. And I don't even know where he's going with the camera right now.
I just went inside. My wife just put the little guy to sleep. Here's my wife. Hello.
Hi.
Kitty cat. Always awesome to see you. How you doing, Kitty cat? That's
and I am Catherine.
Boys and girls, her name is Lady Catherine. That's Kitty Cat right there, Lady
The
Cat.
great Lady Catherine.
Yeah.
Friend the great.
Ooh. She just said Catherine.
You're still young. Just give it time. Just give it time.
Oh, she's well on her path to greatness, though. Don't kid yourself.
All right. All right.
But no, that's as far as my outro tonight, it's going to be simple. I'm famished. I'm exhausted. It feels like Friday on a Monday. It's been great talking to you all. Now I'm going to eat this food my wife made.
Love it.
Hey, by the way, before I turn over to Redbeard, I want to let you know that last night I actually ate that freezer meal that you gave me with the is that like a chicken enchilada or something? That was really good.
Oh yeah, that was Pat's green chili chicken enchilada. That's the recipe his grandma used to make all the time, and that is it's really good going down, a bit spicy coming out.
No, that was really good. That was like ketchup. That wasn't spicy at all, but it was tasty. I really appreciate that.
Good.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
glad you enjoyed it.
All right, let's bring Czar Barota.
Yeah.
It's fitting that you wrap everything up tonight, and
Love
not
it.
only do you wrap it up, but you do the outro, because I love your outros and I just miss
Amen.
having your outros.
Yes.
Are you gonna hang on? Are you gonna like use the same outro? Because I'm not sure how you're gonna top that. What are you gonna do over on your channel?
I got ideas. I
Okay,
have
all right,
ideas.
all right.
Yeah. Well,
right.
we'll see what the
Well,
Brain Factory comes up with, but
I'm
I do
looking
have
forward
a few
to it.
ideas.
I'm so
Yeah.
looking forward to it. I want to hear what you got. But right now, whatever you want to say, the floor is
Yeah.
yours. But I'm also going to ask you, then just once you're done with whatever you want to say,
Yeah.
just flow right into the outro.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Let's wrap it up. We're almost at
Yeah.
2 hours.
So I think some of the main points tonight is, really don't be afraid to ask questions. Always ask questions, take pictures, have organization anytime you're going to do maintenance. Understand, what lubrications are meant for what application. But don't be afraid to kind of get your hands dirty, explore, learn how to do things, take things apart. I guarantee you, if you're afraid of losing something, I guarantee you, myself, Blake, and Mark still have things that just go into the ether, and we'll never see it until like 10 years later, and we're like, oh, that's where that went. It happened. So like you
might
can't-
not even remember what it was from. You're like, there's a screw on the floor. What the hell is that from? And you're like, and you don't even remember. Yeah, 5 years ago, you lost that somehow
Right.
when you were disassembling a weapon platform.
Yeah, and it's like, so look, like, don't be afraid of losing parts. That's also why you have extras. But I will say, if you do actually have a decent gun store that's by you, and you're like, hey man, I just need a spring for like my fire control group, it's this spring. Sometimes if they like you enough, they might be like, this one's on the house, don't worry about it. I've had that happen, and those are some of the greatest people in the world.
Hey, but you guys have both mentioned Brownells, and I'm trying.
Yeah.
And it's escaping.
Midway USA was another one. Gun Parts, which is numerous.
Yeah, it's Midway USA. But I highly recommend, if you're running an AR or an AK, because both of those places will have spring kits. Like
100%.
you have to do it. You just have to,
Yeah.
because no matter what you think you're like, Jeremy's right. You could have a big blanket and you're boo, and then there's a spring gun, or
you can't have enough coverage in your work area to where you're ever going to feel safe. I never feel safe in terms of like, oh, I'll be able to find this. No, dude, that little part will find a way to avoid every potential mitigation device you put down, and there's no explanation for it at all.
Nope.
It will find a way.
Ether, man.
And I actually, funny story, it's very short, but it's funny. I was installing a new trigger group in one of my AKs, and I was putting everything together, and I had that exact thing happen. And the next day I called the company, and I was like, hey man, I was like, so out of curiosity, is there any chance I could get this very specific spring from you guys? And he's like, let me guess, it flew off into the ether. And I was like, correct. He's like, dude, we get that call all the time. He's like, no problem. We'll send something out at no cost to you. And he's
Matter of
like,
fact, Jeremy, that should be like in the if they're doing like the what's word I'm looking for? Like, you know, if you're calling in, you're going through the push button directory. It should be push button, push, you know,
lost
dial 4 if your shit went, something like that. It went flying off in the woods, you know?
Yeah. And so like, I guess the big point for my outro is like, don't be afraid to work on stuff, to experiment on stuff. If you have questions, ask questions. But at the same time, like, a lot of the things that you think, you know, like if something is wrong with your firearm, understand that there's a lot of basic things that are more likely to go wrong than a hyper overcomplicated issue that you can amalgamate in your head. There's a lot of very simple things that can go wrong. And so going through that checklist and understanding like, okay, was it me? Was I not holding, it sounds stupid, was I not holding the firearm in a good enough way to where I wasn't the issue?
We call that limp wristing.
What's that?
We call that limp wristing.
Yeah, 100%. And so is it a human factor? Is it an ammunition factor? Is it an actual like part factor to where the part was just not doing its job? And if that's the case, it's a very easy replacement most of the time. A really good example of this, and Mark, I don't know if you've ever shot one before. I don't know if you have, Blake. I know people that have had them, but I've never shot one. But the Saiga 12 gauge shotguns, one of the most notorious things with those, they're really cool. But one of the notorious things with those is you can't, you have to use a full power load. They do not like to feed.
No, they will not feed low brass. They only feed high brass. I actually shot against a guy who was, that's where I shot it. I was shooting against a guy and I was using my Benelli M4. And my whole thing was like, dude, my animal eats low brass and high brass. Your animal only eats high brass. Therefore my animal wins. I mean,
I mean, you'll get peculiarities like that with firearms. You just got to be aware of it, and you can mitigate any potential situations. Like I said, a lot of the stuff is pretty basic, so don't overthink something because most of the time it's going to be pretty basic. And you don't have to white glove things, people. All right, it doesn't have to be perfect. You will waste more time and energy trying to make something perfect when basic maintenance of proper lubrication, just cleaning it to where you get most of the fouling and the dirt out is fine. So,
hey, Redbeard, and I know you've watched a bunch of programs. I'm pointing this right into the camera at Blake. No, Blake, look in the camera. What in the hell are you doing? Are you eating dinner on the live stream? Like, is your name Blackbeard? Like, are you going to eat dinner while we're talking right now, dude?
Dude, I told you like 40 minutes ago I had to get off. I am crashing. Like, I am so desperately hungry right now. I'm on mute. I'm being as humane as I can. Just put up with me.
I love it.
Okay,
and this is real life,
note,
people.
And that was a great note. All right, so I just want to show this off real quickly. We're gonna obviously do more of these episodes, and we'll figure it out. And it'll be me, Blake, and Redbeard. We'll talk about the kits because that's kind of where all started. But so this right here. So you may not be able to get these. I don't know. This is like an United States Army parachute flare. I'm sure you can get these, online someplace. But I really like this for a weapons kit because it's circular. I mean, I'm not gonna unload it, but you can I've got rods and everything in there, right? Everything I need. But I actually like kind of circular items because you can see it gives me another surface area. Look at all that 100-mile-an-hour tape and safety tape. So, again, your personal in your rucksack, and this wouldn't take up hardly any room in the bottom of your rucksack. So this is actually my kind of big go-to. I'm wearing a rucksack kit. So you just figured out, but on that same note, you could always do the standard U.S. Army, little bullshit kit, they work. I mean, you just need cleaning rods, patches, Q-tips, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Keep it simple, stupid. Use what works for you, what makes sense for you. Again, like we've all talked about, like not every single one of what I do and what Mark does and what Blake does is all going to be the same. And that's okay, because we're meeting our inherent needs. And I'm not trying to meet Mark's needs. Now, what I might have might meet some of his needs as well as Blake's, but we have different things. So,
well, that's where I think, like, certain tools, a Leatherman, a Punch, Hex tools, that's going to work across the board. But a lot of other, and the lubrication, but a lot of the other stuff are going to be like, platform specific, and, it just is going to be. And that's why, again, I think you can't just have, well, here's my weapons kit, and this is what it's not as simple as that. There's your person, rucksack, vehicle, home, all those type of things. All right, Blake, I'm going to turn it over to you guys. We're wrapping it up. We're a little over 2 hours, but let's just kind of conclude it now. Well, Blake's still chewing. No, the Czar's got to take us out, because he's got.
Nope, I'm done. I can do it. I'm good. I just finished my last bite. So my outro is my wife made a wonderful shrimp pasta with bacon and onions and a cream sauce. It was delicious. I live on a busy schedule, so sorry you guys just had to see me be the Sasquatch and just be a heathen and inhale food. But I muted it. So be grateful you didn't have to hear the carnal sounds of my consumption. And with that,
a real person, Blake? Is that what you're admitting?
I'm a real person, man. So with that, I love you all, this strange family we find ourselves. It's communicating through the digital sphere of this weird, bizarre world. Thank you for listening to us drone on about lubrication and gun maintenance for the last 2 hours and 5 minutes. And like Mark said at the beginning of the show, it was going to be a poo-poo fest. So thanks for hanging out for the poo-poo fest.
Yeah. All right, before I turn it over to you, Czar, you're going to take us out. But I just want to, it's always, thanks to Jeremy, Redbeard, Sasquatch, or Blake, our new, what we're going to call Sasquatch going forward. But thanks to everybody for being here. What's that?
I do like Grizzly Adams.
Well, okay. You guys leave us a comment in the video on, is it Sasquatch or just squat? I like Squatchy because it sounds like Squanchy from Rick and Morty. So I kind of like that a little bit, but Squanchy. But yeah, leave us a comment. Do you think it should be Grizzly Adams? Gene had a couple different other suggestions. Yeah, tell us what you think. We're going to give Blake a nickname after tonight's episode. And we're going to go with what you guys want to do. So come back over to the video, leave a comment. We'll do that. My final comments are, so Thursday for the CLS After Dark. God, I almost don't even want to talk about it. We're going to be talking about the VA. There's just been some incredibly horrible things. I got a great guest who just retired from the VA. He's still involved as a union rep, and that's going to be more. So if you're watching this video at the very end and you yourself are a veteran, or if you have somebody in your life who's a veteran, please share the video or let them know to come on. The VA is, oh my God. It's either that or I'm the most unlucky man in the world and I'm just the only one dealing with this shit. I can't be quiet anymore. And I'll tell you more about that on Thursday. That's what Thursday's episode is going to be. And then, like I said, we've got some other, I have to start doing a lot more gear videos. So just stay tuned for that. And then the sale and Nemesis. Yeah, dude, I'm a small business owner, man. I'm just happy to hang out with these guys. Like, I get to hang out with my friends doing live streams. That's my thing now. So, whatever. So that's my little excuse. Redbeard. No, actually, before you do it, Redbeard. Again, here's to Gene Hackman, everybody. One of my favorite movie stars. Please, Lord Jesus, do not let him be on Epstein's list. Here you go, Gene, and your family. All right, Redbeard. Take us on out, man.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean by that? I want to hear that outro.
Oh, you're going to get it.
No, all right. Okay, good.
I just have to put in one more shameless self plug, just in case we have latecomers. But
I'm going to add to it. I already know. I'll post it. Keep going.
Yep. So again, on Saturday the 15th at 1700 Central Standard Time, Sentinels of Liberty is going to be official. We are going to have our first primer episode.
Hey, I'm sorry. Give me real quick. I'm sorry. We forgot to do this, Jeremy. So I have the name of it up. Give me a quick second. Sorry, we forgot to do this, sir. We can't do that. There it is right there. Can you guys see it?
Boom.
Yep, there it is. So I was able to find it, Jeremy, through your link. So I could find it. So I can't see why anyone else could not find it.
It's a pretty straightforward link.
Matter of fact, can you guys see my cursor? Watch this. Subscribed.
Boom.
Because I can't see you guys anymore right now. So here, I'll come back over. There we go.
So it's
all right, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, no, so it's my shameless self-plug. Sentinels of Liberty is going live March 15th at 1700 Central Standard Time, where we cover with a Liberty perspective both domestic and foreign issues from the perspective of Liberty, and hopefully being able to provide a really good conversation while also helping you guys stay up to date on the happenings of our country and the world at large, because whether you say it's unfortunate or whether it's not unfortunate, the United States we are involved at many different levels in and around the world. And I think Liberty follows us anywhere we are currently in. So it's important to understand a good Liberty oriented perspective whenever we're concerning anything domestically or foreign. So that's what we're going to bring to you. It's going to be a somewhat regimented show. I'm hoping to have guests. Hopefully this first episode, I'm going to be able to have a guest. I'm kind of got that in the works right now. We'll see if his schedule coincides, but I'm planning on bringing in guests to provide some nuanced perspective on various different issues, and hopefully be able to provide you guys with a really, really good episode every single time you stop in. And it's going to be a mixture of both video on demand, but also some lives. So,
well, if you ever can get some of the guys from 10th Amendment Center, well, I've already subscribed. I'm on board. You just let me know how I can help you, sir, and I will do my best. To not sabotage you and drag you down because you're affiliated. Like, hang on a second. You know those centerline systems guys? I don't want to watch that shit. All right. Hey, on that note right there, Blake, do you have any final comments to make? Final comments.
Bacon is delicious.
I love it.
We all know that. I mean,
I just had about 4 pieces. So that's really what's in the forefront of my mind right now.
I am jealous.
All right. Hey, I'm going to make my final comments, and then Jeremy is going to do his traditional mission critical outro. If you're willing to do it, Jeremy.
Absolutely. I love doing it.
So I just want to say to everybody, thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for putting up with our bullshit. I apologize. This probably wasn't as focused as an episode as I wanted it to be, but it's just been rough.
It's been fun.
And the moment I was like, I'm not even going to try to control this. And honestly, that's my pledge to all of you guys and gals. I'm not going to try to control this shit anymore. I just can't. I don't have the mental. This isn't a podcast. I'm not Joe Rogan. We don't have sponsors. Whatever happens, happens. So, it's just going to be what it's going to be. Maybe every episode is a shit show going for it. I don't freaking know. But I hope you find it at least entertaining, and we're trying to throw some education and some real world experiences and stories. You can interpret them the way you want. Take the things that we're saying and tweak them and make them yours. And then come over to the chat, because I'm going to start doing a lot more of this over on the chat side as well, both the CLS After Dark and the CLS Gear chat. So on that note, all I got to say is thanks to our guests. Well, no offense to Redbeard, but thanks to Blake. Blake's got a wife and kid and shit. Yeah. Redbeard's a loser like me. He's got he's got a sandwich and a beer. He's got a sandwich and a beer.
Mark, ouch.
No, hang on. You were talking over. You can't talk over my joke. I mean, what are you doing, man?
I'm sorry. I'm checked out now, man. I'm done. I'll stop talking.
Redbeard, but that was Blake's very subconscious and polite way of saying, let's just wrap it up. So why don't you, again, hats off to everybody watching tonight live. thanks for all the comments. Thanks for all the questions. I really hope you found it, again, useful at some level. We'll see you on Thursday. We're going to talk about the VA. It's going to be a very, God, I hope it's not going to be an emotional. It's going to be very personal. I'll just give you a heads up. I have absolutely nothing. Absolutely. That's not being grandiose. I have absolutely nothing good to say about the VA. And that is my healthcare. Well, we'll save that for Thursday. Hope we see you guys over there on Thursday. Redbeard, if you may, sir, or if you will, sir. God,
absolutely.
Now more than ever, we need to hear that outro. Bring it on. Bring it on, sir.
Thank you, Mark. So, look, the flame of liberty shall not and will not ever be extinguished so long as there are good people that are willing to support and defend it. And that starts with each and every single one of you. You are absolutely important to making sure that liberty continues to not only exist, but to persist in probably one of the most important ways possible. And that's through community. Community is a huge portion of what we do. It's a huge portion of what our founding was. We had this expectation that we are to be fundamental in the role of how our country not only operated, but in maintaining a very good and just government. So liberty exists not only within just me or Mark or Blake, but it exists in each and every one of you. And it requires our participation in making sure that it continues to exist for many, many years to come and for our posterity and our future.
So as that was a slight twist in what you've done before. I think that's even better than what you did before. But I'm going to add P. Rick's comments. If you love freedom, I love you. So on that note, thank you for being here tonight. Hats off to Redbeard and Sasquatch, our guest again, well, actually, I think, I was trying to do like, I'm sending everybody a bag of cheese. So I'll send these guys a bag of cheese. Now. That's my new thing, right? I can't fly them out here. I don't have, any of the ability to do that, but I hope you appreciate them taking the time away from their families to be here with us tonight, share their stories, their experiences, their wisdom. So we really appreciate it. And more importantly, or just as importantly, however, I don't want to disparage our guests, but I really appreciate you being here tonight too. The economy has sucked for years, but I'm here to tell you, I talk to every customer who orders from the business, and it's just so awesome. It's so refreshing to have conversations with so many great men and women, people who get it as well. Like, and they understand, and they don't want to buy cheap ass shit from China, and they don't want to be doing this. And they know what it would be like if they went to work tomorrow and everybody else except them was making, $10 a day in their business, and how that would destroy their business. So, or just like even the guy who just reached out to me one day and said, man, even your material is, I've never even felt this material before, and I use Cordura all the time. I'm like, that's this mil spec, Yeah, you just haven't used American gear before. So what Blake does, what Redbeard does, what you guys and gals probably do, let's just keep that train rolling. And Redbeard, can you see where I'm trying to follow up on something you said, and I'm not doing a great job, but that's my point right there. It's like, boys and girls, it is us. It is us, the world. Yeah.
It's the community. It's that bond we're trying to build, that thing that's greater than us. I've brought it up many of times before. We've talked about it ad nauseum, but it's that great grandfather that laid the cornerstone of the cathedral that your great grandson carved the final relief of. Yeah, it's something greater than us. I mean, that's really what community is. When people pull together, a group of individuals come together and augment each other's abilities to try to make something greater than them, to try to poorly shine the good through them. That's what this is about. And at the end of the day, it really is those you can stand together and bleed together.
That's right.
Well, I love that. Yeah, I was just going to say, God bless you guys. I love both of you. Thanks for coming on tonight. Thanks for everybody watching it.
Yeah.
Learn me something. I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm going to probably reach out to you and ask you for like a prayer at the end of each episode or something like that, if you're willing to do it. And on that note, I just reminded me something I was remiss upon, and I said I was going to start doing this every episode, and I just keep forgetting. So I'm going to take us out on this. Here we go. So his name is Steve, right? Steve L. You know who you are. Steve sends me all these horrible, absolutely horrible dad jokes, and I absolutely fucking love them. I absolutely love them. So I'm going to end every episode with at least 2 dad jokes. So here we go. You know, before the crowbar was invented, Blake, crows just drank at home. Absolutely horrible.
I love it. Dude, ever since I became a dad, these jokes are the best.
Seriously, I almost want to make this into a book, like a coffee book. He's got so many of these. I don't even like where he's getting them. I have no idea, but I love it. So that was the crowbar. And then Jeremy, I'm going to end it with you. My last one for everybody. My new girlfriend asked me if I wore boxers or briefs. I said, it depends. She left me. She left me.
You just got a chuckle out of my wife on that one.
Oh, that's funny.
Cat heard that?
Yeah, oh yeah. She just went, ha.
Yeah, seriously. They're so bad. Fantastic. They're so awesome. So, Steve, thank you very much for sharing that stuff with me. I mean, I can't tell you enough. I love it. Makes me laugh every time. I hope you boys and girls enjoy it as well. And to Blake's point and to Redbeard's point, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to find a way to use this mechanism, this technology, these platforms, share information with everybody, develop a community. You don't have to be a community with us, but use that to build your own community where you live. Yeah. That's all I'm trying to say. And if I can share any little bit of knowledge from my past experiences, same with Blackbeard, I'm sorry, same with Sasquatch, same with Redbeard. Yeah. I know I'm speaking for them because I know they believe this too. Like we're all willing to do this. So thank you for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. Boys, any final comments? Otherwise, I'm getting Gene spun up and we're doing a big woo.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for being here tonight, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday. We're going to talk about the VA. It's really not necessarily a conversation about the Veteran Administration. It's more a conversation about the ineptitude of government. I'll use my personal experiences, and that's going to be embarrassing, and we'll see how that goes. But God bless you. Love you guys, each and every one of you. Hats off to our guest for tonight, and we'll see you on Thursday. Boys, any last things?
Hey, we'll see you over at Sentinels of Liberty, and we may even talk about the ineptitude of government over there too, so stay tuned.
All right, Blake?
I'm hungry still, man.
Me too, brother. Me too.
I love you all. Have a good night.
Did I not say this episode was going to be a shit show at the very beginning? That was awesome right there, though. All right. Hey, you guys hang on. You know the deal. Let me render the video after action review. But to everybody else, Gene, get them going. Gene, are you even still with us? My God, it's so late your time. You are such a trooper.
4 something in the morning for him, man.
Dude, it is. It's like 4 a.m. for Gene right now. If he's
I think it's 3. He's Greenwich Mean, right? We're -7. Is that right?
No, we're -6 on standard. We're GMT or Zulu -6 on standard time. So, oh my God, Gene is still here. Or no,
only 2:20. He said.
Only. Yeah, man, it's 23 here. I'm ready for friggin' bed. Let's wrap this up.
Let's wrap it up. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday. I hope we gave you enough good information about F kits on the Pew Pew side. We're going to keep doing this. Maybe not 3-hour long gear load up. But tonight it just happened. I think we're all, whatever. So I hope you're in the same world. Like,
we're cooked.
We just needed a bullshit event tonight. So thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. We'll see you later. Reach out anytime if you have questions, comments. You hear me say it every time, and I mean it every fucking time. That's what I'm here for. So I will get back to you. Thanks to all the people who have reached out in the last couple of weeks. I had a list of folks I wanted to give shout outs to tonight. I'll probably give them shout outs next week or on Thursday because I don't have the list in front of me because it was again, it was a shit show just getting this going. So God bless you. Thank you very much for being here. Reach out if you have questions. Gene, spin it up. Keep thinking. Keep moving. Never quit. We'll see you next time. All right, everybody. Be good. Woo!